Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a WildEarth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Our first WildEarth Explorers competition has closed, and we have a winner. Congratulations to Chantal Sleep from Benoni in South Africa.
I felt totally overwhelmed for winning this prize. I will be taking my son with me, and I can't wait to share this experience with him.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent andBeyond Ngala tented safari camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank WildEarth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes, and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Tswalu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on board. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, where it's very windy. And we've managed to find a small breeding herd of elephants just down here in the drainage feeding, and very splendid to be able to catch up with elephants. They are everywhere at the moment, but it is very windy, so most animals are going to be hiding in the thickets. Well, we found one. We found a few, by the way, that this bush is moving, and it's not always, I'm not out alone this afternoon. We've got Tristan, who's out and about. We've got Kyle out in Tswalu, JP in Prrivate, as well as Kim in Phinda. And Ngala will not be joining us this afternoon, but we'd like to welcome you all on board your live African safari. Hello and good afternoon, everybody, on this very overcast and cloudy 26 degrees Celsius afternoon, 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And hello, breeding herd of elephants feeding on what looks like a false thorn. How are we all doing today? My name is Steve. I'm joined by Theo Taymont on camera, and as always, very excited to have you with us. And as always, your interaction and comments are most welcome. We'd love to hear from you this afternoon using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, the @FC on YouTube. And if you are under the age of 18, please get your parents or guardians to send through a question to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. If you haven't done so already, please go through to the website and register. Head over to the live Safari page where you can directly submit your questions there. We hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. When it's windy like this, the potential of game viewing is generally very limited, but you can be lucky if you do happen to come across some predators. They could be quite active in this weather, but we have had a lot of rain. There's a very limited chance there's going to be no off-road driving this afternoon, so we will spend as much time with these elephants as we can. She's not looking very excited to stay with us, so we might stay with the smaller member of the herd. There's a second one with her. Hello. It's actually a nice opportunity to go right into the ear. You see the ear? Behind the ear, you'll see how the skin is quite thin there. And now she's stopped flapping, of course. But as soon as she opens the ear again, you'll see that there's massive, massive big capillaries of blood underneath the inside of the ear. There's even some on the outside. She's decided she's a bit shy of showing us that sensitive skin. But this is one of the albitzias, one of the false thorns. I'm trying to figure out which one that she's feeding on. You'll notice that it looks like acacia, hence why the common name is called false thorn. But it's one of the albitzias. It's also known as worm bark. And many of the albizia species are actually quite poisonous to livestock due to the fact that they've got huge amounts of sort of chemicals in the pods, and they're designed for purging, lots of purging in the gut for parasites, hence the name worm bark. And so livestock haven't really adapted to eating them, but many wildlife eat them. They assist in any bodily sort of parasites, tapeworms and the like that might be lodged in the digestive system. But I'll need to identify which species it's in. This is one thing you can tell, is that it's very well fed upon. It's been hedged all over the place. And this lady is so keen, she's sticking her face right in there. And of course, there's no thorns. Looks like it should have thorns. She's definitely a hungry fellow. In you go. Delicious. She's going for the pods specifically. There were quite a number of pods around when we first started watching her, and they've all been eaten. You're going to come and say hello? Show us how big you are? It's okay, it's only me. She's got a little bit of leaf remnants on the tip of her nose. That's what happens when you stick your face into a bush. Lisa, where have you been? We've been showing elephants non-stop for the last few days. She's really checking us out now. You could see that the head was held a bit high. I don't know if you noticed, but the eye was a little bit more open. There's no aggression. She's just saying, I see you there. Steve and Theo, I see you there. And here come another two. They've got a little bit of road food, padkos we say in South Africa. A bit of bark. Something's definitely been communicated between them that we didn't hear, but by the behavior change, you can tell that they've spoken to each other. Very low frequency of communication. And it helps to keep them together. And you can often, scientists were boggled because they'd never understand how the elephants would all suddenly change behavior, and then studies were done to understand the infrasound, very, very low frequency. It's about below 5 hertz. I think the human ear picks up between 19 and 20 something hertz, so we can't hear it. But if you have a hertzometer, you can actually see something happening at that range. I actually want to buy one. I don't know where I get a hertzometer from. I bet you Marcel will know. Marcel, if you're watching, will you make me a hertzometer? Hello, little baby. Oh, no. Now he's given me all the warning signs. Turned his head. The head is upright. Looking down. Oh, it's so scary. Don't charge. Please don't charge. So you can learn a lot from young elephants because their behavior, they have very similar triggers to adults. And so they will show you behavior that when a big adult does, if a big female elephant in a herd is behaving or showing the behavior that youngster did, then you need to be very careful. Obviously, it's an elephant nose. It's quite big. Mom's quite scary, so it's quite often a nice way to learn about elephant behavior by spending time in the herds and allowing the youngsters to sort of interact with you. It's the best way to observe how elephants fight, because Tristan was telling me this morning about his elephant interaction this morning, and I was discussing it the other day. Let's move up a bit. That you can't really watch elephant bulls fight because it's just enormously dramatic, and you don't really want to be too close, especially in the wilderness like this where it's quite dense, because they're just... Sure, Tristan can elaborate a little bit more on what happened this morning if he didn't do so already. But young elephants are always great because their behavior mimics that of the adults, and if you can understand those signs that the youngsters will show you, it's the same signs that the adults will show you when they're warning you. And obviously this youngster's behavior, you never really have to worry too much about the young elephants in a herd. It's the big females who lead the way, but the youngsters will often, out of bravado, try and scare you away and now hide behind his older brother and then come from the back. There he is. And then feed a little bit. A bit of displacement feeding. It's very typical in elephants. After they've tried to show you off and then you don't run away, then they start to play with the vegetation, swirling it with the trunk. Look at that. That's a lot of skill happening right there. That's feeding on the seeds of the Panica maximum, the white buffalo grass or blue guinea grass. There's a few different common names for it. I don't know what the newest one is. It's a grass you find me nibbling on quite often. Ellies are cool. And go once again, some signal. Let's go behind the bush and then we can sneak up on them the other side. Bonita, I don't know if there's a favorite, but elephants, as giraffe, love acacia trees. This time of year, most certainly the favorite tree for the elephant is the Marula fruits. But then they have a seasonality. So the large-leafed, the bloodwood or the round-leaf teak is also a favorite tree. But then these trees all around us right now, these bush willows, I love them in the summertime or in the late summer, autumn. Love them. Knobthorns. Okay, we saw you. Yes, you are big and formidable. Oh, it's a big head shake. Okay, so those are very classic signs of when a herd, a big herd, if the female shows you any of those sort of warning signs, it's a very, very good time for you to leave. But when you're in a herd like this, you'll often get youngsters that will show you those signs as well. And as I said before, if you're driving around the Kruger or you're a new guide, very important to understand what these signs are and to know when it's not a game. Big females, they aren't playing when they do those signals. But young elephants, there's not too much seriousness in it. They feed off of mum's behavior. So a decent-sized female, even that size, she's not fully grown. There's another one in amongst us over here that we haven't seen yet, who's probably the leader of the herd. And it's always the biggest female you should watch out for. But a key factor, you find yourself in a herd of elephants like this, if you can hear them feeding, moving about, everything's pretty relaxed. Everything's pretty chilled. Okay, well, as you've seen, it's a pretty cloudy, overcast day today, so let's go have a look at how it's panning out over the rest of the reserves.
Well, welcome to the sunny part of South Africa. Good afternoon, my name is Carl and behind camera is Craig. And we are venturing out west this afternoon. And we are literally going to be scratching for anything. We're going to be looking for insects, we're going to be looking for birds, and as well as hoofed ungulates out in that area. It's a very, very busy waterhole, especially with hoofed ungulates. And if Craig just gives us a little landscape scene, you'll see how flat it becomes out here in the west. And the soil content or the profile changes out here. And along with that, so does the vegetation. This area is dominated by grey camelthorn and three-thorn, and in the mix of things, blackthorn as well. And it's just such a beautiful and so different in comparison to the rest of Tswalu. And out west is where we're going. So we are chasing that setting sun for this afternoon. We're going to enter a pan in the next half an hour or so. And at that pan, we are going to be stopping the vehicle, finding a shady spot, and we are going to see what comes into that watering hole first and foremost. And then I also know of a juvenile Lana falcon that is residing in that area. And we have had this individual chasing doves at the watering hole for quite a while, quite a lengthy period. And hopefully we can get that as well this afternoon. But as I said, anything and everything out west we are going to be looking for. And it's a very toasty afternoon, not a cloud in the sky. Oh, there's one cloud. Afternoon is ruined. I'm just joking. Wonderful. But as we continue further west, we're going to Tristan is going to say hello to you folks.
Hopefully you find it, Carl. It's one of the most incredible things to see. So not in Tswalu itself, but in the Kalahari or Kalahari, there's lots of little pans there. And it's very dry at times, and what you find is all these pigeons and doves and sandgrouse that come early in the morning, late afternoon to come and drink, and also to fill up their little breast feathers for their chicks. And then you find these falcons swooping down, Lana falcons hunting them. It's incredible to watch. Anyway, before we get into all of that, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Impala this afternoon, and it's a very different afternoon to what we had this morning. Feels like a completely separate day. The sun is gone, the clouds have come in, and the wind has picked up, and it's a much cooler safari that we're about to take now. The idea behind this afternoon is going to go try and just follow up where I had those leopard tracks again, just see maybe we get lucky and that leopard, or one of the leopards, is out on the road somewhere. That's the kind of plan. Given how cool it is and how overcast it is, I'm hoping they're going to be a little bit more active a little bit earlier today. And then if they're failing all of that, we're going to try and see if we can get to the hyena den. Like I said, that road was still quite wet, and not really one that we wanting to drive if it is wet. So I'll just have to see how that goes. If it's okay, then we'll have a little look later, try and see what's happening. We know that Intima looks like she's got suckle marks, so maybe there's some little new ones at the den. So we'll go and try and kind of get there. If not this afternoon and we get no rain tonight, tomorrow morning we'll definitely be able to try. But we'll see. Let's see how we go. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get there at some point. I know a lot of you are looking forward to an update on the hyena den. It's just that we're trying to protect the road as much as possible. That's a road that gets used heavily. Lots of people in and out of it constantly. It's like it's almost like a road that's developed because of a sighting, and we don't really want to ruin it too much. And given that it's right on the edge of a seep, the idea is not to mess it up, but to keep it in good condition. So we'll try and kind of figure it out a little bit later. I know a lot of you, like I say, are desperate to see the hyenas, and so I'll try my best to head there. In a little bit of other news, the Djuma Pride is not too far from the Simambili kind of boundary with Elephant Plains. They're kind of static on the western side, and so maybe, just maybe in the next day or two, they'll start moving their way back eastwards. That'll be nice to see them making an appearance now that the Telematis have moved kind of northwest into the Manyeleti. Maybe the Nkumas will make an appearance this side. We'll get them too. Other than that, well, we're just going to take what comes. A little bit of birding will also be good. As I was saying just now, those falcons hunting is just the most wonderful thing to watch from a point of view that Falcons, as we know, are pretty fast birds, but the sandgrouse themselves are impressive in their own right. They are hugely fast, and you don't realize it until you watch these falcons trying to hunt them and the various doves. It's just this kind of war of attrition that takes place between them, and these falcons come swooping in and you hear them coming. It really is one of the best places to watch interbird dynamics at play, particularly between prey and predator birds. I've really not seen anything as good as what it is in that area. There's a very small Impala lamb, little light lamaki is what we call them in South Africa. It's a little late lamb. That one's probably only a few weeks old, maybe a little bit older, maybe a month, which is quite late. A lot of the others are slightly bigger. And you can see how all these herds that we've had that used to have lots of little ones in them, how those little babies have slowly but surely been thinned out, and there's not actually that many babies anymore in amongst these groupings. Between the leopards, wild dogs, hyenas and lions, baby impalas, I'm afraid, just don't last too long. They get a little bit hammered out here. So we lose quite a few of them pretty quickly. I'm quite surprised though that one young male impala right at the back left is looking quite skinny and shouldn't be given the amount of food that we have around. All right, so we're going to carry on. Let's go bumbling. Let's see if we can try and find the princess or that male leopard track that we had. While we do that, let's send you across to JP and Prrivate so you could say good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're viewing a small group of elephant bulls, one directly in front of us and the other slightly further in to the thicket. Just waiting for them to come out, see what they're up to. Generally we like to just give them a little bit of space and see how their behavior is before we approach them a little bit closer. My name is JP Leroux and behind the camera we've got Gerrit. So for the weather for today, that's a lovely 22 degrees Celsius over here. And cool and windy. So hopefully we'll have a lot of action this afternoon. Just going to reposition our vehicle, see if we can get a better view for you of the animal. Van daai ene gaan. Okay. One young bull is just moving out of view. Good afternoon, Dylan, and welcome to the show. In terms of how far they can travel for food, it's going to depend on how much food is available in the area. I don't know, I do know that they will cover big distances for water. So it's hard to give a precise distance in terms of how far they would travel. So quite often what we do find is with most animals that their movements will be predicted about with regards to the available resources in the area. So there's sufficient food and water in the area, they will then stay in that area. However, if food resources are getting scanty or they have to travel for water, then they will start covering bigger distances. We even find that in general the African elephant will daily drink, so they're water dependent, they do need a large amount of water. However, in arid areas where we do find elephants in Namibia that are in desert-like environments, those elephants will sometimes move between 70 and 80 kilometers to and from feeding and water areas. It seems as if there's only 2 young bulls around in the moment. And we'll stick with them a little bit longer and see what they get up to. And in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Tswalu.
True to my nature, I'm always birding. And here's our first bird for this afternoon. A beautiful little Pygmy falcon. It is always such a treat to see this little bird. You'd have to be in the northern parts of the Northern Cape. Yeah, predominantly, to see this little bird, this diurnal, which is the smallest diurnal raptor in the region. It's a little bit, if you've ever seen a common fiscal up close and personal, it's a little bit stockier than that, or a redback shrike. Only weighing at about 60 grams and about 20 centimeters. So very, very small little raptor. He's just sitting there looking for a potential meal. Predominantly small reptiles makes up the majority of its diet. But then it will also take insects, rodents, and I've seen them catch birds such as Kalahari scrub robin and fawn-coloured lark. So a little vicious individual, very beautiful. It's quite a lot of white staining. So its partner shouldn't be too far, and they would have a nest. We just went past quite a large sociable weaver nest, which this individual should be nesting in. They obligate breeders to that of sociable weavers. They will not nest anywhere else in South Africa. If you go to East Africa, you'd find they would use red-billed buffalo weavers and one or two other bird species in order to find a suitable nest. But in South Africa, they only breed within sociable weaver nests, which is quite remarkable. Thinking about this little diurnal raptor finding its humble abode within a colony of sociable weavers. And they do prefer the arid regions of South Africa, the savannas, let's say the arid regions of the savannas in South Africa. Typical behavior, perching and just Darcy, and yeah, the colors are very, very striking. Just the general outlay of the bird is very, very beautiful. That white breast and tummy. And then if you look at the dorsal section of the bird, it's slaty grey. And you'd find that males will have a uniform slaty grey back, and then a female will have a rusty brown patch in between her shoulders. Very, very easy way to distinguish between that of male and female. Can you hear a shrike busy calling out the alarm calling? Could be for the falcon. Yaku, this would be the smallest raptor in South Africa, the Pygmy falcon. There's nothing that would be smaller than this little individual. So only weighing at about 60 grams, so a very, very lightweight little bird, and then only about 20 centimeters in length. Very, very small bird. It's in general size. I mean, a common fiscal, it's just as big as a common fiscal, maybe a little more stockier. But what a wonderful treat it is to see this beautiful diurnal raptor. So we are still moving out west. We are going to be very, very shortly entering that area, which we will be finding a shady spot, and we'll be scratching around there to see what we can find. So sitting and perching like it's typical behavior. You don't want to be wasting energy. So where you can sit on a perfect perch, relax, conserve energy, and then also be on the lookout for potential prey. It's a very efficient way of hunting. might fly. You can see the stick is very white that it's sitting on. So it's more than likely a common perch that this bird is using. You can see the whitewashed section just underneath its vent there. That's from the defecation. And that's a typical sign that this bird will be coming back to the spot almost on a daily basis to use this perch for hunting purposes. It's amazing how the weather has changed from this morning. We had very strong winds, and now there's almost not a breath of wind. So that heat coming down is literally just sitting around us. And obviously birds don't have a problem with heat. Miss Robbins class, good afternoon, guys. How do birds communicate? Well, birds are very well adapted when it comes to communication. So vocal communication would be the quickest and most used way of communication, and that would be via making sounds. So a bird could make a sound where it could notify other birds that there might be a potential threat within the area by giving a certain type of sound called an alarm call. They communicate by attracting mates by song, so a very complex, rich arrangement of notes to attract a potential mate. Excuse me. And then birds can also communicate visually, so they can communicate via wing beats or certain body movements. They can communicate. So vocal is the most widely used way of communicating, but then non-vocal can also be used, especially when attracting a potential individual that you want to mate with. It's a very, very clever way. But call is a very efficient tool where you can emit a message and it can travel a very far distance, but then also that message can be altered very, very quickly. And you can change, you can put pieces in it. So communication via vocalization is by far one of the most efficient ways that birds would communicate with. Little scratch. Beautiful bird. They form monogamous pair bonds, so this means that the male and female will be together for quite a while. But we're going to continue west, but we're going to send you guys off somewhere else for now.
How awesome. I saw a Pygmy falcon years ago when I was in Namibia. Very, very cool bird to see. So everybody, we thought about crossing the Moati today, but it's not going to happen, especially not at this crossing. We wouldn't be able to get out this side with the sand, and it hasn't even been a week yet since I got stuck. I got a lovely message from my mom this afternoon saying, enjoy your drive and don't get stuck. See how deep this is. I'm almost losing my feet. So this is the Moati, everyone. We haven't had rain in a few days, but still the seep lines are flowing. Still the water's flowing down this streamline here. This drainage line on the right over here is where Tandy's had a couple of litters. Just up this side where Tandy's had some litters as well, and often we're able to drive. Yeah, but it's not going to happen today. But amazing to see the Moati flowing like this, and it will sustain as long as the water table, because the water table gets full and it starts to push out underneath, and that's exactly what's happening. Magical. So you can see here how the water flowed over the top here. It completely flattened all of this, so you can imagine the force at which it was probably flowing down, and that is what often causes a huge amount of damage. We talk about dam walls and areas where water's being held in, and water starts moving quite quickly. You can actually see that there was a little bit of a spiral over here, and that's dug out an enormous amount of sediment and then sent it down. So the power of water, everybody. A white-throated robin chat shouting at me here. Such a pretty bird. Heard some elephants downstream, but we're going to have to get to them another avenue. We're not going to be going down this way. So Let's jump back on the car. This is actually the grass that the elephant was feeding on. Very, very nice, the seed pods. When they're ready. They're a little bit raw still, but also very delicious. Over here.
We're still bumbling along, just trying to see what's out here this afternoon, just taking it very, very slowly, trying to see if I can find a track somewhere from any of these leopards that we had tracks for this morning. There was lots of movement of leopard in this general vicinity around where I am now. So it's very possible the weather that we've got this afternoon, which blew in at about 11:30, 12, it started to really get cooler. They could have moved quite a bit, and that's why I'm just going as slow as possible, just to check very carefully anywhere where, you know, I've seen leopards cross before. So where there's nice little game paths, just check those very carefully, and then go a little bit further, check the next ones, because even within this long grass it doesn't look like there's game paths, but they actually are. The elephants, from moving around from Marula to Marula, are creating new little paths, and you'll often find a lot of other animals, so not just leopards, but, you know, things like duiker or steenbok or impalas, they'll use those same paths, and so the path gets wider and wider and wider and bigger, and then you find that, you know, the chance of finding animals gets better with every time an animal walks there. That's why it's always important just to check them as you go. Known kind of game paths, even with the rain, they'll still be there. It just takes a few animals to walk it, and it opens out quite nicely again. The other thing you always check for is at the junction of roads. Those help you a lot when you're looking for any sort of tracks, whether it be for elephants, lions, leopards. A lot of the animals now, because of how wet it is, are using the roads to walk. So tracking using the roads is probably your best bet at this stage. So you see like a road like this that just comes out on you just quickly check, make sure. And what we're looking for is we're not looking in the middle of the road. So when you're tracking, the middle of the road is not a perfect place to look because of the traffic that goes up and down. What you're looking for is the soft sections on the right side of the road where no vehicles travel. There you'll be able to actually see the tracks nicely. So you're looking in mitre drains and any of the soft sand on the edge, and there you'll be able to pick up really nice tracks. The problem with that is that they can be a little bit older because of the lack of vehicles. So the reason why I don't have to worry today is because I drove here this morning, so I know full well what tracks have been around. Oh, that's a beautiful European roller. It's got beautiful colors, this one. Sometimes the European rollers can be a bit washed out. I just want to get a bit of green behind it because it's going to show the color a little bit better. Unfortunately, with these white skies, birding is not very easy at all. It becomes quite tricky to do birding. So you need to get sort of color behind the bird. And in this case, we at least have the Marula tree that is behind the stump. And so we can actually get a much better sort of appreciation of the color of this particular European roller. It's got a lot bluer, especially on the wings. It's quite a deep, rich powder blue. Some of them can often be quite washed out and almost appear as though they don't have a lot of color, like the saturation has been pulled down on them if you were to be talking in terms of editing of photos. But this guy is pretty good color for a European roller, and much, much better this year. The number of European rollers that we've seen, you know, last year was dire. We hardly saw them, and it was due to the fact that we had very late rains last year. You know, when it was sort of January was really when we received some semblance of rain, and that means by then these guys had kind of finished their migratory instincts. They had come down to sort of Botswana, northern Zimbabwe, and then they turned and went from there. So we didn't get a lot of European rollers last year, but this year they're back in full force, which is good to see. The problem with these guys, though, is that they are under severe threat. The numbers of this bird are crashing. They are netted quite heavily for the exotic bird trade, as well as even shot at, and their numbers have decreased from 30,000 birds to just over 17,000 in the last 5 years. So the numbers are steadily declining, which is a real shame. It's not something that we want to see, and you've got to figure out a way to protect these migratory species better. It's a tough job because of how many countries they cross over. You've got to kind of have relations with all these countries, which is difficult. So protecting migratory birds is never an easy thing. But we've got to figure out a way, because to lose a bird of that coloration and that beauty would be a travesty, I think, in many ways, and not one that we should allow to happen on our watch, although the world at the moment and the way that we are kind of plowing into nature means that it's not just birds, it's just pretty much everything on this planet is under severe pressure. I actually saw a very sobering statistic on rhinos yesterday. The official figures were released, and it's not a pretty picture at all. But before I get into that, Megan, you say you love their colors. Very pretty, isn't it? They're not the prettiest of the rollers, though, for me. I mean, they are beautiful, but the broad-billed roller for me is the most beautiful of the family. They have this nice kind of mixes of blues, purples, and a little yellow beak. But the rhino statistics that I saw yesterday were very, very, very bad. It was not at all what I expected to see. So, we as kind of guides and what we've seen, because we haven't had a lot of statistics coming out of particularly the Kruger area. The population was always deemed to be around sort of 8,000 white rhinos and potentially about 900 black rhinos in the Kruger. But the statistic that was released in the last few days has shown that number is all wrong, and that we're actually sitting probably at only about 200 and odd black rhinos and 3,000 white rhinos, which means there's been a 60% reduction in our rhino population here in the northeastern part of South Africa within the last sort of 8 years. Now, to give you an idea of how extreme that is, 80% of the world's rhino population occurs here in South Africa. Of that 80%, 60% is here in the Kruger, and we've lost kind of 2/3 of that. So the problems facing wildlife is as severe as it's ever been, and I don't even know where to begin to get it to stop. It seems like the more people are trying, the more it's kind of feeling like a lost cause at times, which is the wrong feeling to have, because we all need to carry on fighting for these things. Otherwise, we're going to end up in a rather depressing situation. But reserves like the Sabi Sands and all of these western boundary areas are doing as much as they can to try and stem the flow. And we've got to figure out a way at some point. There's no golden bullet, though, that's going to, tackle this problem and remove it completely. It's going to be a multifaceted approach, and it's going to require buy-in from not just, South Africans, but from the whole world. And that includes pretty much every country. It's got to do its part to start really paying attention to what we're doing to this planet, whether it be from polluting waters to overfishing to the loss of an iconic species like rhinos. We all need to kind of take a look at ourselves and do a little bit more in probably what we are doing, because otherwise we're going to be left with a destitute world and a very, very, very sad future generation that won't be able to see these things. So not the most happiest of news, but the reality check is always a good thing. We all have to understand that sometimes we need that check just to really kind of open our eyes and say it's time to again re-energize our efforts to conserve. Anyway, right, let's go and see what we can find. We're almost in the area where we last had tracks. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you across to Tswalu. I believe they're still birding. Hopefully they're going to come up with some crackers this afternoon.
Well, look what we have found here. Oh, is he hiding now? we just spotted a wild meerkat. And it looks like his buddy, a wild... Yeah, there he is. Hello, my friend. It's a meerkat. We spot one meerkat and one ground squirrel. It's not uncommon to see them in close proximity like this because they will co-inhabit burrow systems. Ah, there's another one. They multiply. There's a small meerkat factory just behind that one there. That's where they're made. A little burrow system. Just to the left of that individual, there's a little bit of displacement of soil. You can see the soil there. That's from the unearthing, from the excavation of these burrows. So this must be a burrow site that is used frequently. I have spotted them here before. We're just north of this pan now. This colony is not too big. And you can see from their very, very shy behavior in comparison to the macalas or the rock stars. They've still got a very healthy fear. Well, not a fear, just caution. Just being cautious. They have to be. See on high alert. It's lovely viewing meerkats at a different time of the day because we've been mainly viewing meerkats early morning. And to see them with a bit of different light and different area is lovely. On the lookout. So the area over here is very open, but it won't stop a falcon from rushing in. And you can see the alertness of that individual there, just ensuring the safety of the rest of the colony. Charles, that is a fantastic question you've just asked. Good afternoon. So Charles, there would unfortunately be losses here and there. That heavy rain that we received on the night of the 26th, it was very, very heavy, and it was a lot of water that fell in a very short period of time. From that water, you will unfortunately have burrows that collapse, and unfortunately meerkats will suffer from that. So when you have heavy rains like that, the one threat is the burrow collapsing and actually locking the meerkats in. Or when you have a heavy amount of water so quickly, it actually floods the burrow and animals can't get out. So unfortunately some animals would have been negatively affected from that rain, but it's a kind of a way out. It's Mother Nature kind of reshuffling and reorganizing populations. So the meerkats that we know of further east of us, they're all fine, their burrows are all fine. So it's very important, where a female selects a burrow for a group and how stable and how it is dug out, let's say that, and the structural component of it. It's very important that it is a solid and secure location to ensure their safety. So unfortunately, I don't doubt that some meerkats would have passed on through that heavy rain, but that's just naturally what needed to happen. So collapsing of burrows, big thing, and then as well as water flooding the burrow where they cannot get out. And then also it was under the cover of darkness, which makes things even worse. And they moved off. All right, so they've moved off. So what we're going to do is we're going to push on further west over here. We're going to leave these meerkats to be. We're also looking for greyback sparrowlark over here, and they're using this short grassy areas to actually breed. And we actually found a chick a couple of days ago. And what we're doing now is just driving very, very slowly. And their coloration is unmistakable. They're tiny and they are grey. And I don't see any grey rocks moving here. So what we're going to be doing is obviously driving very carefully, because they love to cross the road and they love to sit in this thick grass section of the middle Maniki. And obviously we don't want to hurt or injure one. So what we will be doing is going very slowly and then just keeping a watchful eye out for any of these little chicks. Because seeing a chick like that is quite remarkable. And just look at the shortness of this vegetation and just think about a chick surviving and reaching maturity in this area. It's quite remarkable. Grey-back sparrowlark, very, very nice bird to see. And especially a chick. Okay, meerkats, keep safe. I don't have to worry about COVID, but yeah. All right, we're gonna send you over to Tristan.
Well, we've come down towards this dam that we had 2 lesser moorhens this morning, trying to see if we could find them, but no sign of them as yet. It also was very close to where we had the leopard track, so I thought it would be a double-edged sword to just come down and check along the dam wall. It's not exactly hot today, so the cats could potentially be lying out. Also, you never know if there's some ellies around. There's a lot of promise to come here, but I can't find anything. So no spotted cat. No lesser moorhens that I can find, but what's interesting is how the entire body of reeds or vegetation has changed since this morning. Across the waterway is where those 2 moorhens landed, and that area there had a little open gap in it, and it seemed as though everything was a lot more spread out, but maybe with this wind it's kind of compressed itself in a little bit into the corners, and it's actually just changed its sort of angle slightly, which is making it a lot harder to see. It had a little open section right in the middle that we could see nice and clearly, which I can't see now. So if those moorhens are in there, they're in that longer vegetation where they'll hide relatively easily and we won't be able to find them. But that's okay. That's part and parcel of birding. Birding is often about just a bit of patience. Sometimes you've got to just come and sit for a little bit and just let everything settle. You know, the noise of a car arriving, particularly to a secretive bird like a little moorhen, will upset them a little bit and they'll hide. But once you sit for a while and you're quiet, then they can start to come out and be a little bit more visible. I'm just scanning all of the little reed beds in case they're not in that same one and they've moved during the day, because obviously birds do move. But I don't see anything. They would have flown away if they were very close to us on this closest edge. They still probably don't know cars that well, and are therefore a little bit more shy of the sound of the vehicle. But nothing flew out as we arrived to indicate that they were here. Donnie, you're asking a very sore point here for me. You're asking about caracals and whether I've ever seen one. It's the one animal that I haven't seen. There's a lot of animals that occur here, and of all of those animals, I have seen most of them. Caracal is the kind of bogey animal. I have tried many times to find one. I have even been in a lineup to see one that's disappeared before I got there. So no, I haven't seen one. Taylor, from when she was working here at Djuma, not at Pridelands, she actually saw one on one of the live drives. We had a brief view of it. So that's the only one that I know of that's been put on camera here at Djuma. That and a aardwolf that sometimes gets seen on nearing coral and onto Torchwood would be the 2 animals that occur in the Sabi Sands, or have been seen in the Sabi Sands that I haven't seen, or at least in the time that I've been here. There was reports of a brown hyena, or a brown hyena seen on this show in 2009, but that was a little bit before my time. I arrived at the end, in the Sabi Sands at the end, or at sort of end of 2009 was when I first came into the sands. So that was a little bit before my time, not much. But we could throw that on the list. So those would be the 3: caracal, aardwolf, and brown hyena. I mean, brown hyena, the fact that we've gone 11 years without a sighting in a very densely traversed game reserve like the Sabi Sands tends to suggest that there's none really around here. We haven't seen tracks for them either. They're a very distinctive track. And the density of spotted hyenas means that not many of them. And the same thing with caracal. The density of leopards is what's meaning that we see very, very few caracals. Also, the terrain is not quite right in some places. Anyway, we carry on. Let's see what else we can go and check and find. Hopefully we'll get lucky at some point.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the Meerkat. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply. If you love to watch WildEarth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
Hi, I'm Mike Anderson, and I come to you live every day from Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy in South Africa. The wild animal I think is most underrated. I think buffaloes are the most underrated. They're so tenacious and ferocious, and also very, very protective of each other, which I find incredible. You know, sometimes people think of the big five, they just think of lions and leopards and other big animals, but I think buffaloes are pretty underrated.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
We have a baby pangolin, a baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back, everybody. We are at the scene of a tragic affair last night where Tristan saw a Gabar goshawk ripping open one of these village weaver nests. Quite incredible to hear the story. I didn't get to see it, but I'd love to see a replay and find out how it went down. But if you didn't see it, Tristan saw a Gabar goshawk land on top of one of the nests and rip open the roof and snatch a chick. So it's a reality that predators abound, even when you do make a wonderful nest like these fellows do to keep the snakes out and to even protect against potential threats from brood parasites. Eventually, some predators just have a different way of accessing. You'd think the easiest way would be to come from the bottom, but of course, just smashing through the roof solved a lot of problems. Just here below Twin Dams itself, the weaver colony that here is very busy here the last couple of years on a leadwood tree that's growing in this wonderful little pan. is a beautiful afternoon with the sound, so keep quiet for a few more moments, allow you to hear the crickets, the cicadas, birds. Female birds will breed again if the season allows it. If their clutch is abandoned, then they quite often can use, if there's time, they can often lay another clutch altogether. It all depends how long in the season we find ourselves and on the female's sort of energy levels. You never know what might materialize while you're sitting at water. Hello. You never know what might materialize. It's an elephant train. So yes, late into the season, if a bird loses its chicks, it will stop. It's the same as if it abandons a nest due to whatever reason. It might not breed again, but if there is enough time, she doesn't have to build the nest, you see. So there could be a male who's very willing, and she could mate with him and lay eggs in a new nest. That's very possible. A young boy from the back, following the herd as they move slowly up Gowrie Main. They've been at the Mawati. I've seen them come from the other side, so they've had a drink already. Although they don't look very wet. It's not a very warm day, so there's been no need for them to... Oh, maybe they're going to come to the dam. They seem to be coming up behind us there. Oh, they're walking up towards the Marula trees. I think that is what they're going to be doing. Should we go around quickly, Theo? I think I know exactly where they're going. Go around quickly. Maybe we'll get them coming to where I suspect. We know there's marulas there because Theo and I just harvested a couple. Theo's never had a ripe marula yet. So you harvest them green. And then you allow them to sit in the back of my bakkie. My bakkie is my little car. And the sun warms them. The reason I put them in the back is it keeps the insects away. Otherwise they get inundated with little fruit flies. Yes, I'm sure there are quite a few sicknesses that go around. I mean, a lot of elephants died in Botswana last year. A lot of people are still uncertain to what it might be, but here's the Marula tree. They don't seem to be coming here. But there's definitely what some people believe is there is a toxicity in the food after elephants ate a certain amount of it. Led to a toxicity in the elephant, some of them, and it led to some of them dying. Over 400 elephants died in Botswana last year. So certain plants will develop after being overutilized, eventually certain plants will start developing some chemicals, and maybe if that plant gets overexploited or that animal ends up eating way too much of it, then it can lead to toxicity. But diseases in elephants, I'm trying to think what other diseases they've been prone to have. You see, she's got very wet feet. Very wet feet. They have crossed the river. I'm drawing a blank on my elephant diseases today. Here we go. sightings. They found the Marulas. You see, they can smell them. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, the matriarch generally leads. It could be another older female that might be in the front. It's not necessarily the matriarch who's always in front, but she definitely makes decisions. So when we saw that herd move earlier, definitely would be her decision making. And young bulls are generally on the outskirts and following slowly behind. If they're still part of the herd, they're trying to avoid being too close to everybody. But if they've been pushed out of the herd, they can often follow for months, even years, just behind. Wherever the females and the family goes, slowly but surely the bulls come. So whenever you are approaching elephant breeding herds on foot, and you obviously want to get behind them to get around, once you've seen them, you want to get around them, you must always bear in mind that there's always, well, generally always, going to be a few bulls trailing behind them. So you've got to be very aware of that. So you've almost got to do a bigger loop to get back and around them. You don't ever want to walk in front of the elephants unless the wind is favorable, and you can do so. But to walk behind them sometimes due to wind conditions, maybe you want to get to the other side, there's some cover, some elevation, you want to get up quite high. Bear in mind there might be some young bulls slowly following behind that you could bump into along the way. We're going to stay here while our elephants devour these Marula fruits, and we're going to send you over to andBeyond, Phinda, to say good afternoon.
Welcome to andBeyond, Phinda. We have been chasing this herd of elephants all day long, and here they are. And here they are. Behind camera, we've got Glenn this afternoon. Yeah, like I said, we've been working very hard. These elephants have made us run around in circles and running into areas with not much signal, so that's why we're joining you so late. I think we'll carry on a little bit, see if we can just get their bums again. Looks like they might be walking along the road now. Don't want to get in between any of the members of the herd. Oh. Okay. Looks like they have all crossed. There they are. And you can see that they're very much on the move. There's not much feeding going on. We have seen a couple of them kind of drinking from little puddles, but that's about it. Just stop for a snack and then carry on moving. This road is quite slippery. I'm going to try and follow a little bit, but I don't think we'll be able to follow too much. So I don't know. I don't know the distance, but I think that it is quite far. But I think that they generally will smell more when rain is coming, and then they know. So, for example, in Phinda, we don't actually get elephants much in the south of the reserve. I don't know if you watch WildEarth very avidly, you will
Sorry about that technical issue, everybody. We are still here with our elephants and are enjoying their Marula fruits now. This young lady here is a little bit indecisive. She lifted her foot off the floor and did a little bit of a backwards and forwards foot to shake. Now she's okay again. She's picking up 3 or 4 at the same time, shoving them in her mouth, and just giving it a little chew. Gets the juice out. This one's doing a very good job. 3 or 4. Open the mouth and just throw them in. Standing on quite a few as they go, but you can't make grapes with wine without breaking a few grapes, can you? Are you looking forward to having your first Marula, Theo? No, at all. They start flowering in October. The fruits are visible in November, December, and then January, February is harvest time, where the fruits are falling from the trees. It's a time of year where everybody gets very excited. Locally, in the Shangaan cultures and tradition, the fruiting of the Marula tree, or the Marula tree itself, actually features 3 times in their calendar. October is when the flowers fall. November, when they can count what their harvest might look like, and in January, when the harvest starts. So many people around the world look to January to be a bit of a celebratory month, and obviously that shifts slightly depending on the rainfall. What other things can be mentioned in the calendar? So the wildebeest birthing is December. That's a very common sort of sight out in these parts. And look, they're coming closer and closer to us. This is their decision. A little bit of a stretch. See, she was indecisive before, the younger one, but now that Mum's right next to her, it's okay. It's okay, Mum. I know we get to do this all the time, but it still blows me away that we are indeed able to spend time with animals this close, large animals that is. Absolutely blessed. Marula time. This young bull has arrived at the back, as always, caused some trouble. He's wondering if they've left him any. There's plenty still, young sir. Plenty more Marulas. I wonder if he's big and strong enough to give the tree a little shake. Are you big and strong? Brunslang, I'm not sure what nutrients the tree bark of the Marula has itself from a sort of macronutrient level, but it's regarded as a very important antihistamine in human medicine. So I've been stung quite badly by stinging nettles, and I've taken some of the cambium, the red blood cambium from a Marula tree, and put it on the sting, and it almost immediately disappears. Oh, he's getting a bit of a fright because the Marulas are falling on his head. But the fruits are full of vitamin C. They're very juicy as well. And if they are strong enough and able to break the kernel, which has got 2, 3, sometimes 4 nuts inside. Those nuts are quite high in protein and also have quite a nice oil. But it's not often you find in the elephant dung that the nuts have been broken. You'll often find squirrels enjoying digging through elephant dung for the nuts, which they then squirrel away into little burrows and eat slowly but surely. I'll try to find you one at some point. Show you what they look like with the nut and without. So here comes some more. They're wondering if they're too late for the feeding party. They've got to navigate this young bull. And no one does it better than a youngster. Let's just walk straight up underneath him. You're being very rude. There's plenty of Marulas to go around. Daniel, it is. Their trunk is made up of 2 fingers at the end. We call them fingers. It's one of the characteristic differences between the Indian and African elephant. Indians only got... Ow, that was his ear. It slapped against a branch, this young one. The African elephant's got the 2 fingers, and the Indian has got just the 1. I'm not sure the purpose of why the Indian only has the 1. Maybe because they're just grazers for the most part, and they're feeding on papyrus grass. They don't actually need to pick up fruits like the elephant does. But they're very nimble with that. Very, very nimble, very able to do many, many things as you would with your fingers. And the fruits keep falling. I wonder if he's going to try to give it a little nudge. You see the big boys do it. The big boys push it with their head. That was the big boy just being rude and chasing a little youngster. That youngster then screamed, and that caused the whole herd to have a moment of panic until they realized that, well, it wasn't us that caused the trouble. The female behind us gave Theo a proper little look, didn't she, Theo? How's your heart going there? Eh? Tough. Theo's hard as nails, everybody. Oh, look at that leg stretch. Wonderful leg stretch. That's quite a noise, isn't it? That noise cuts through you. It's like a youngster throwing a tantrum. That's exactly what it is. Okay, well, we're going to stay right here with these ellies. See what they get up to other than eating Marula fruit.
I'm glad Steve has got the elephants this afternoon. We had many an elephant this morning, so Steve can have them this afternoon for now. I might not be saying that by tomorrow morning. I probably want the Ellies back. I love spending time with the Ellies, but this morning they well and truly foiled any attempt that we made to try and find those that leopard, 2 leopards tracks that we had. Interestingly enough, I spoke to one of the landowners, and they actually saw briefly a leopard yesterday afternoon on that section of road, and it apparently was in a tree, and they reversed back to look because they spotted it as they were going past, and as they reversed, apparently this leopard just shot out the tree. So I think it might be that skittish little male that's around. We've had a view of him. Lauren got him on camera. I've seen him on my own independent stuff. So it's very possible that he is the one that was in that tree in the track that we had this morning, because I remember I had one track that I said it was almost like a female track, but it was a male, so that could very well explain that particular one. I can't believe how much water is here. This is an old quarry that they used to build a lot of the roads, but it is now a massive pan for a whole bunch of blacksmith lapwings that are sitting here and enjoying themselves. 5 of them to be exact. I'm just keeping quiet because I thought I heard some guinea fowls alarm calling. This wind is making it very difficult to hear anything. It's blustery and kind of rustling the leaves too much and making too much noise for me to actually pick up anything properly. I'll try to drive towards where I roughly heard it in case they're still going, and maybe we can pick it up a little bit. It sounds like more towards Buffelshoek Dam. Okay, well, let's head in that direction. Let's see. Maybe we'll pick up those guinea fowls, and maybe they will actually be alarm calling. Welcome back, everybody. Naughty bull causing trouble. He's not even fully grown. He's nowhere near fully grown. But you see how he's just able to cause chaos in this herd, and he's probably tolerated because he's probably related to this herd. It's probably this estranged son who's been away for a little while. He's just come back, and she's tolerating him for now. It's only going to last so long. He behaves like this. But the elephants do go a little bit cuckoo over Marula fruits. Before the Manuleti was joined with the Kruger, I was a student at Timavati, and the Timavati was joined to the Kruger, but between the Kruger, or between Timavati and Manuleti, was a fence, and the elephants used to smash it over every single summer in search of the Marula fruits on the other side. It has since become open to both reserves. It is open to the Kruger now, should I say. So that issue is not there anymore. Obviously, we're going to go behind us. Someone said something, but don't worry, we've got another youngster on the way who's very brave. He's hoping that there is some more fruit left behind. Also got the wet feet. A young bull, I'm almost certain. Too cool to hang out with the herd, you see. Problem is, young sir, you arrive late. You miss all the spoils. What, Mum? You've already had dessert without me? Never heard that before, have we? Now, this is actually very interesting, everybody. The elephants are walking up on my right-hand side, exactly to where the elephant died a few years ago, 2 years now. Exactly where. There's still some bones around. I wonder if they're going to go pay their respects. Just a Marula fruit along the way. Are you trying to be very brave? Are you trying to be very brave? You're going to be a big boy with big tusks, aren't you? Look how big those tusks are already.
There's not much left. Remember how many marulas were here earlier, Theo? Swept clean. Okay, well, we're going to stay here with this little elephant and see if the rest of them go up to the old grave site of the last bull. And in the meantime, back over to Tristan. Hopefully they'll kind of catch up with that little Ellie at some point. We're watching the runway models walking down the proverbial animal runway, which is Buffelshoek Dam Wall. You see two male impalas. They're a bit unsure about what they really want to do. They came kind of walking towards us, then did an about turn and walked away from us again, and they've now stopped and are looking back in this direction, almost as if to say, what have you guys got there that we don't know about, and what should we be worrying about? The answer is impalas, nothing, because we haven't seen anything. There hasn't been much. I don't think they're satisfied with my response to their question, though. There's also two Egyptian geese that have just emerged on the dam wall. It really is a thoroughfare on here. There's us and the impalas and the Egyptian geese. They're also doing their thing, shaking a little tail feather, doing what they need to do in order to be impressive. We know that geese like to be the center of attention and like to kind of make a noise, and now they're trying to do it with a few little fancy moves to steal the attention from these impalas. And there they go, waddling down the road. Buffelshoek Dam is full. I'm actually it was this full last year because it's got an overflow. You know, it doesn't fill up too much beyond a certain point, but it is as full as you could ever ask it to be. It feels like the Great Lake right now. There's just water absolutely everywhere, including around the corners of both inlets, and that's why this dam fills up much faster than the others, is that it has two drainage points that flow into it. Gowrie Dam, Treehouse Dam have one. Twin Dams has none. So Twin Dams is literally just what falls and what runs down the slope, whereas this dam and Gowrie and Twin and Treehouse have actually got drainages that feed them. But this particular one has got two, and that means that it is often full pretty quickly. Interesting though, there's no hippos, which is strange to me. I would have expected there to be hippos, unless they're tucked in up the drainage line around the corner where it's a little shallower. Maybe it's gotten a bit deep for them and they're not exactly that comfortable sitting here. Maybe some of them have all gone to kind of wallow at Gowrie Dam and go visit the various hippos that are there. It also could be what's happening. But no sign of any here. It's a serious amount of water, isn't it? And the crazy part about it is this dam in November, December of 2019, 2019, was dry. There was no water in this dam. It was one big storm that filled it up, and then since then we've obviously had good rains, and that means everything is fairly full again. Absolute madness. It's amazing how quickly nature responds and can change just with a little sprinkling of H2O. Although it's not really a little sprinkling, was it? It was a fair amount of H2O that came down. Okay, let's carry on, because I want to just try and check the little weaver nest quickly up in front and see also if there's any sign of any pygmy or malachite kingfishers. We used to get a pygmy or a malachite kingfisher that was here last year when it was full like this. It used to sit in this little buffalo thorn in front here, so I just want to quickly check there. Also incredible to see how the weavers have changed their nesting behavior at this dam. So they used to nest in the buffalo thorn, which is attached to the bank of the dam wall,
But this year, because that is so easy for things like snakes and monitor lizards to get onto, as well as maybe even something like a genet, the weavers have moved their nest completely now. They're no longer using this buffalo thorn. They've now shifted it to a fallen over torchwood that fell over mid-season last year. And that is much further into the water and far more in line with what they like. They like these kind of overhanging branches very low to the water. I think they feel a lot safer there, and so they've kind of moved their home to what they feel is a better spot. Still don't see any hippos actually in the background there. I thought maybe we'd see them around the corner, but there's nothing there. It's crazy to think that we used to be able to drive wherever you see water now. We could drive anywhere there. This was all just barren, and was where we used to off-road and have all kinds of sightings of various animals. This tree also makes me very sad. It used to be the most beautiful torchwood that was on the edge of the dam. I think that it was an eily that pushed it down. I can't remember if it was a storm or an eily, one of the two. I got involved there, and the whole thing fell over, unfortunately. I believe a lot of you are loving the full dam. I'm sure it's a sight for sore eyes in many respects, for especially those of you that were watching during 2016 when we had that serious drought. You kind of couldn't believe that this is the same spot. When I say barren, it literally was cracked mud and no water at all. It was dust. There was very little life around here. And now all of a sudden you've got this crazy amount of water. We've got weavers nesting. There's foam nest tree frog nests around. We often have hippos here. We had impalas, the Egyptian geese. But what I'm not seeing, which surprises me a lot, because last year when it rained we were inundated with them, is little dab chicks or little grebes. They don't seem to be around this year in the same numbers they were last year. They were prolific last year. We had them absolutely everywhere, and I've only seen a few of them at Gari Dam, and I saw one at Twin Dams the other day, but otherwise I haven't seen them, and Buffelshoek Dam was full of them last year, as well as Gari and Treehouse, and I haven't seen them there too much yet. Maybe they'll arrive once everything settles down after the cyclone. Maybe we'll start to see more birds starting to arrive at the waterholes when it heats up and they can actually fly, and that's not such brutal conditions. I feel like everyone's still drying out a little bit after that cyclone. You can actually see how some of those nests have flooded completely. They were built prior to this big rain that we got, and they've now ended up being completely submerged. Hopefully there weren't chicks in there, because if they were, unfortunately those chicks would not have survived. They would have succumbed to drowning. They're not able to swim, and if they did somehow get out the nest and make it to the surface, things like catfish would have picked them off pretty quickly out of here. Shame, guys. Been a bad week for weavers. Between the Gabar goshawk yesterday and the flooding today. Jerome, excess, no. Pretty expected amount of frogs. A lot of them are calling, so you sit at these little flooded pans at night and it's deafening. But it's not an excess, I wouldn't say that. It's not like they're everywhere. I'm quite sad that we're not seeing the same kind of outburst of bullfrogs that we saw in 2017. When we had good rains in 2017, we had bullfrogs everywhere. And that was fun to watch, because they wrestle and throw each other all over the place. I know Steve had a bullfrog yesterday afternoon, but it's not like the same thing. We literally had them all over the place. And like I say, they would bite each other, they would pick each other up and throw each other. It really was amazing to watch. So not many of them this year. I haven't seen a huge amount of diversity in our frogs yet. So we've had the usual suspects, which is bubbling cassinas, common grass frogs, water lily frog, banded rubber. Those are all pretty stock standard for us. Tremolo sand frog has also been calling, but I haven't heard the puddle frogs. I haven't heard some of the stream frogs. Also not very many of the bushveld rain frogs. which I would have thought they would have come out also after this rain. But no signs so far. They're little, so we struggle to see them. Bushwalk is better for them. They're cool. I like them. They're the angriest looking frog in the world. Small but angry looking. Sometimes I used to like their look to the same look James used to give me sometimes when I used to make mistakes. James Henry used to give me that scowling gaze from, across the table, and it would often remind me of a rain frog staring at me with these kind of eyes and this hardened gaze. Shame, it's a bit unfair. James does not look like a rain frog. Don't tell him I said that, please. I actually spoke to James just now, just before drive. I had a brief conversation. He sent me a message asking me where was a decent place to go and get something to eat in Maun. Maun is a city in Botswana. He's been on a submarine safari rather than a normal safari. It's rained a lot while he's been there. We had a brief chat. It was nice to catch up with him. I'm actually going to see him next week when I finish up here and I head back home. James is going to come visit, which will be quite nice. So we'll be able to catch up with him and see how his trip went, but I'm sure he's had a lot of fun. It's his first time to explore some of those areas, and he said he thoroughly enjoyed it. So it'll be good to see him again. All right, I'm going to carry on from here. I think I'm going to start making my way slowly towards Hyena Den area, try see if we can get there in time. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Steve and see if he's still with his Ellies.
Thank you, Tristan. Well, we are going to get on to Chitwa in a moment or two. See what we can find. It's not much going on the radio, but that's all right. You never know. Last time I found Tandy's cub, the radio was also very quiet. So, very nice, slow afternoon, but I've accumulated a few little samples over here. So I'll pull over in a moment and give you a little bit of a leaf demonstration once again. We've spoken about compound leaves versus simple leaves. It's okay if you don't remember all of that sort of stuff. I'll touch on it again slightly. Slightly. Just pull in here. While we're doing a leaf discussion, you never know what might occur. Obviously, we couldn't go off-road, so we weren't able to spend any more time with those elephants, but they walked up to that area of the old elephant that died. An elephant bull, it was over 2 years ago now, arrived on Djuma in a very bad way and didn't survive. And died not far from where we were parked just before. Did I miss that road? I think I did. Goodness. Sometimes things look very different. I was looking off to the left for a little while and suddenly I was lost. Temporarily disorientated. I just thought I'd maybe missed that turn. Let me stop here. Do a little bit of a leaf discussion, if that's all right with all of you. Okay, so first of all, bring your attention to a very characteristic stick that we find over here. And what's very characteristic about this stick is we're going to talk about arrangement today, leaf arrangement on a stem. So can you see how these sticks are 90 degrees to each other? Can you see that? So there's only 2 trees you should find in these areas that have got a leaf arrangement or branches that are, can you see the 90 degrees? It's quite easy, isn't it? Now I've picked this one specifically because it's got no leaves on it. But here is the real one. Not that this one isn't real, but this is the same branch over here. Okay, so what we call this is decussit. So you get 90 degrees, 90 degrees. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. So the leadwood and the Mopani pomegranate are the only trees I know of in this area that you will find with this arrangement of the stalk. Okay, so very important thing to have a look at. Now, are these compound or simple leaves? How do we tell again? Let's go into this fellow over here. And do we see something in the base there? You could see just a little red thing in the bottom there, can't you? I'm going to try and break off a little stick over here. You can see just a little growth point just over there. Okay, so this is a simple leaf. This whole thing is a simple leaf. Now, really nice to get such a nice view of it. Okay, and you can actually see it quite easily here with the two leaves join. Both of them have got that little axillary bud just at the base. So see where these leaves join? There's one that side and one that side. So very easy to remember. This type of leaf arrangement is called opposite. Okay, so we've got a simple leaf. We've got it opposite to each other. The leaves are quite pixelated. The top and the bottom is different. If I turn that leaf over, you'll see, it's actually very similar to the top, but it's got all those little pixels. Can you see that? And the stems are arranged in a decussate fashion. Okay, that one might not look. You see how this is growing out and the branch is growing over there? An auxiliary bud means growth point. So where the leaf is, the growth point is at the base of the leaf. Once again, base of the leaf. Okay, so this is decussate, simple leaf with an opposite arrangement. This is a leadwood. Very easy to identify, but there we've seen opposite leaves. Let me find you another one. Now we've got another leaf arrangement over here. I'm just going to, for ease of this instruction, pull this one off completely. And once again, let's have a look. Now, the leaves look a little bit eaten up, but what's very easy to see, once again, over here, you can see the little axillary buds at the base of the leaf. Can you see that? Very, very simple, which means that this, ladies and gentlemen, entire thing here is the leaf. So once again, another simple leaf. And once again, if we have a look, we'll see that these two are opposite. Let's go up. And once again, we'll see they're opposite. You can clearly see that, can't you? So very important to understand the leaf arrangement. Opposite, simple leaves. And this is a magic quarry. Okay, so we've dealt with opposite quite nicely, and there's a third one. It seems like I picked a whole lot of random trees today that all turned out to be opposite, but it is what it is. We'll have to find a few other examples. Okay, let's pull off a section. Let's do that. That's actually not the best one. I'll get a better example. Okay, so here is a tree that I did today. And now growth points can be leaves, they can be flowers, they can be fruits. So if we go right in over here to where the leaf joins, once again, can you see the growth point just at the base there is the axillary bud. Okay, so once again, another simple leaf, very easy to see. And if we look at the arrangement of these leaves, you go up this way, you'll notice that there's one there, and then it's there, and then it's there. You can see it's almost like a ladder. It's almost like twirling up. Okay, so it's definitely not opposite, but what is it? Is it alternate? It could be alternate, but it's a little bit different from alternate because it's not just like a ladder. Sort of it's there. It kind of spirals as well. So sometimes they can be a bit tricky, but it's definitely not opposite. And the leaf, as we said, is simple. And what's very easy to identify with this plant is that it's got the two thorns, the hooked and the straight thorn, which you can see that there's the hooked one and the straight thorn. So you should easily be able to identify this as a species, but you notice the leaf arrangement once again is different from the one before, and this is the buffalo thorn. Okay, so I hope leaf arrangement is making sense. We've got another couple over here that are quite different. This one over here is a real mess. So we think to ourselves, oh gosh, how am I going to identify this one? Well, let's first of all try and break off a piece of it. And let's have a look, shall we? Now, let's look for a sort of growth point of some sort. Let's see, is there a growth point inside there? Is there one in there? Seems to be a little dot there. It's not very clear. On the other side, not very clear. But if we look right at the top, you notice that the leaves are growing out of one sort of point over here. So what we're noticing is that these are all clustered towards the end of this branch. And so it's not the same as before, where we've got opposite. These are all sort of clustered towards the end. So that would be an easy one to remember. And actually what you can see is that there is the leaf. And can you see there's a growth point growing out of here? So that's the auxiliary bud, where another leaf is growing into another cluster. So one cluster, two clusters. See how the leaves all accumulate on the end there. So this leaf arrangement would be called clustered or whorled. Different books have got different examples. CNAC is opposite the most common. I don't know. I mean, I basically just grabbed a whole handful, and it just so happens that the first three I showed you were opposite. It doesn't matter which are the most common. It just matters that you are able to identify the difference between them. Once you've got the difference, because first of all, you need to know that this is a simple leaf. By knowing it's a simple leaf, it will take you to another section in the key, which will then show you the leaf arrangement. And then from the leaf arrangement, it'll take you to a whole lot of other questions. But if you can't get those first two steps, you're not going to get very far in the key. And that brings me to one that's a little bit crazy. This is one of our centers. Okay. A very crazy one. Now, immediately when you look at it, you can tell that it's not simple leaves. You can tell that there's a whole lot of growing on, whole lot of stuff going on this leaf itself. And there is, where's my stick gone? There's another stick. You can see that there's a growth point where this leaf attaches. Here's the growth point over here, this little bit coming out. Let me just move all these things out the way. There's the growth point over there. So there's the auxiliary bud. So this entire piece over here is the leaf. Okay, so that is a compound leaf. And it is divided how many times? It's divided only once. You can see if this individual leaflets were divided again, we would say it's twice divided, but it's only divided once. And if we go all the way to the end of it, does it end in 2 or 1? It ends in a 2. Can you see that? It doesn't end in a 1. It ends in 2, even though there's another little... Let me check again. That looks like that bit's been eaten. Sometimes you have to check more than one. Okay, so again, the tip of this one, it ends in a pair. Okay, ends in a pair. So we call that peripinnate. If it ended in 1, you would call it imperipinnate compound. I know it sounds quite crazy, but it's just once divided, ending in a pair, peripinnate. Now, how it grows off of the stem, in this regard, and it starts at the bottom one, it's there, and the next one is there, the next one's there, next one's there. It spirals. It actually goes up in a spiral fashion up the stem. It doesn't go up alternate, and it doesn't go up opposite. It's going up in a spiral as a sort of around the base sort of activity. So that would help you quite easily. That together with all of these weird growth forms on here would make identification of this plant very, very easy. Okay, well, we'll try to find you a couple more to compare, but I hope that's giving you a little bit more with regards to trees to wrap your head around.
Well, we stumbled onto another breeding site of these wattled starlings. We're trying to get a position where we can see the chicks welcoming the parents back with a potential meal. And I've just been focusing on these two nests on the far right-hand corner of this tree. So when we got to, we could actually see the chicks' mouths opening. It's a very, very orangey, yellowy mouth opening, obviously very distinctive marking point for the adults, to where the adults need to put their food. Some birds that live in darker areas have specialized little markers on the side of their mouths. And these markers are, watch. Got a big caterpillar. It's right, Emperor. Hopefully we can get to see adult feeding the chicks. Not the nest site that we wanted, but very nice to see it come back with a food item. So if you want to understand these birds and the impact they are making or have on the environment, you can see what food items they come back with. We've just had a big influx of grasshoppers, and obviously the moths and butterflies are at full tilt at the moment. So there's lots of caterpillars, a very, very important food source for birds, as well as grasshoppers.
Yeah, bears, John.
Oopsie. That one's gonna go to. Yeah, we might be lucky on this one.
Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature. In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with WildEarth.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide and most importantly the questions that you ask give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon, and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the Live Safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Warthog's tusk. And tusks are made of a little bit, well, they're not quite the same as bones. Tusks are ivory, so elephant tusks and warthog tusks are both made of ivory. But when we were having this discussion, we did a little bit of research, and it turns out that ivory does have quite a bit of calcium in it as well. So the animals don't mind interchangeably chewing on bones and or the tusks of dead animals. Oh, wow! You can really hear the chewing now. Oh, I can see a bit of it sticking out the other side of his mouth. Yeah, his lips, and especially when he looks right at us. when he's looking at us, those lips are quite comical. And that's why I say it looks quite unnatural for him to be doing this. With predators, or any animal that eats bones actively as a part of its, or the bulk of its diet, will have teeth specially designed to crunch through bones, and it looks a lot more elegant than this. As I'm sure you'd know, giraffe, like I said earlier, are herbivores, so their teeth are nice and flat. And that's, just designed for eating the nice soft stuff. Just grinding it up, nice and fine, and then swallowing it down. But, not for crunching on bones, as you can see here. Lions and, it does look like a tusk. See how it's like... like curved. I don't know if you saw it pop out there. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by the hilarious movement of his lips, but I was just saying that with predators, they have firstly a very strong bite force that's able to push their jaw or their teeth through bones, and then their teeth are obviously also very, very sharp. Sharp and strong, so just much better suited to eating bones, or like crunching them and actually swallowing them, as opposed to just gnawing at them like this.
Come back to you in a minute.
We are going to just quickly reverse. Leslie, oh my gosh, kicked myself because I was asked this question the other day. I did look it up and I've already forgotten again, but I think it's like 12. There are like 12 subspecies of giraffe. But here on Phinda, we just get the one. This time, I promise. I will remember it. So there is a group of giraffe behind us, and I think that's why the sky is so determinedly walking in this direction. Just trying to keep up with his family group. Well, there you go. On he goes. But he is also, I think he's a bit torn because he's obviously really feeling a little bit calcium deficient and needing to take advantage of this little tusk that he's found, but he's also not wanting to be left behind. You know what I think might be quite a good idea, which I don't know how I haven't thought about it yet, is to actually just turn around instead of keep reversing after this giraffe. I'm just going to do that now. Don't know why. Don't know why. Don't know why. Don't know why.
They're quite nice. You see the chick there? Oh, welcome back. We are just trying to localize on a nest where we could potentially show you folks what the chicks look like. And we have been driving very slowly past this breeding site. And if you look very closely, every now and then, you can just see the little chick moving at the entrance. There it comes on the left. Waiting for mom and dad saying, "Where is my meal?" Oh, that's the parent. Is it a parent? No, it's a chick. It's a chick.
And we've just been appreciating the sheer devotion that these parents have for these chicks, because they are frantically flying in and out. Coming back with a lot of grasshoppers. Let's go. Craig, just look at the top right-hand corner. You can see the bird with food in its beak. The male top right. Craig's going to get into this male here that's got a big juicy grasshopper in his beak, and it's looking very beautiful. Look at that. So chicks are fed by both male and female within the species. And they do form monogamous pair bonds, but then obviously they're highly colonial nesters, so you'll see there's multiple nests within this area. And the breeding would have been started by the onset of the rains, because the rains would have stimulated the insect population to boom, and that's when these birds would have actively started breeding. Sure. And when this adult was off foraging, it would have been foraging on the ground. So more likely hopping around and then localizing, finding a potential prey and then rushing up to the prey and then jabbing it with its beak. That's a fairly sized grasshopper that it's taken out there. So it's a grasshopper and a caterpillar. Incredible. And just the noise itself is just so entertaining. And just hear in the distance soft hooting noise of the hurricane button quail. But to get a sighting of that little bird is almost impossible. We mainly see them in flight. As we drive close past them, we disturb them and they fly. But to see the little bird, sure, is such a difficult task. Craig is being harassed by a wasp. It's flirting with him, it looks like it. Sure, it does look like a pretty big wasp, dude. Right, what we're going to do is carry on east. We've now changed direction. And we're going to go into this pan over here, and we're going to sit in a shady spot in this area, and we're going to see what's going to come to the watering hole for a late afternoon drink. Hopefully we get lucky with a cheetah, and hopefully we get some hooved ungulates, maybe a warthog. I really want to see a warthog. I haven't seen a warthog in a while, but hopefully we get lucky with some beautiful animals at the watering hole. Myself and Craig have been driving out west, and it has been a little bit quiet, I won't lie. The most abundant thing has been the sun and then these birds. But let's head to that watering hole and let's see what we can unearth. Oops, sorry about that.
short, but we're going to send you over to Tristan.
Well, we have found what I was hoping to find, which is good tracks for not one, potentially not two, but 3 kitties. It looks like this is tracks for Thandi, cub, and a male all together. We've got tracks going back and forth there for a female and a male, moving up and down the road. It's quite typical of a female when she's walking with a male cub, is he'll go past and kind of come back and forth with her. But the male track looks a little bit big for Thandi's cub in places, so it looks like there's the 2 smaller tracks and then one much larger track. And then there's another track coming up the road here. I also found a very, very, very skittish lone Impala female who's just kind of staring in these directions, and I have a sneaky suspicion that there is a kill here somewhere. I think that Thandi's got a kill, but maybe killed the little lamb for that Impala, and the male has also arrived, and he's been kind of tracking her, and that's why there's so many tracks going all over the place. Maybe he even stole it and she's come out, but she's also gone back and forth, and that's what kind of indicates to me that there's potentially some sort of meal here, but there's definitely just a kind of whole plethora of leopard tracks all over this area. And it's at First Rock, which is where I thought she might bring this cub with this flooding. We would have imagined a nice high point, safe, dry, lots of little places to hide is the perfect area for Thandi to utilize. Now we've just got to be able to find where she is. The problem with Thandi, as we know, is if the carcass is very small, is that, I mean, if it's small then it'll be up, but if it's a big carcass, which it could be, then she won't have it in a tree, and that's going to make life exceedingly difficult in terms of finding her, because she could walk 10 meters into the bush and we will have no idea that any of them are there if they're all sitting down. I'm going to try my very best to try and find them. The way that Impala looked and the way that these tracks are moving up and down and the freshness of these tracks, they're shining, tends to suggest that this is not old. This is from today. There's been a lot of wind and these are not disturbed that much by the wind. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we can find them. The tracks kind of go here to this Marula tree behind me and then vanish. Gone from there. So I can't see if they go in here or if they go down towards the drainage. I've checked the rocks carefully. There's no sign there. Could be that they're in the drainage line behind the rocks, which is very, very possible. But what I'm going to do is just do a little slow drive, just check very carefully all the termite mounds, every single tree that I can. We'll go slowly and carefully, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up something in this area. It's exciting though. At least we know there's some sort of sign of these cats around. James, you say 3 potential leopards. It's very exciting. It is exciting. I'm hoping that we can actually find them though, James. We are handicapped heavily. We're relying very much on her being in a spot where we can actually pick her up and see her, as well as, a number of factors going in our favor, which potentially might not happen. We'll just have to really kind of play it by ear and just try our luck. We're going to just drive and hope, like I say, that she's in a tree or one of them is in a tree, and that we can actually spot them. Possibilities aren't great, but at least we've got tracks. It's better than having no tracks whatsoever. There's a vehicle that's in front of us that I'm going to want to just have a chat with now, because they are going to help us with this. But they've come down that road, so I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, I will change direction and head back and try further down. Alright, I might go around this way then and just check. In the meantime, let me send you across to Kyle in Tswalu.
Well, east we go. You can see Craig. You can see Craig's shadow. So it shows you our orientation is due east. sun is behind us, looking very, very delicious in front here. Just the sheer beauty of this area while driving is so nice. You don't need a lot of animals to be entertained out here. And we are just driving very slowly, and we are open arms. We are open arms. What we want to find. Suzanne, what is my favorite bird in the Kalahari? I think the most entertaining is that red-crested coron with its beautiful rocket display. I think in this area it'd have to be that for entertainment. It is just a bundle of fun watching this bird shoot up 30-40 meters and then literally drop out the sky like it's been shot. So it does provide a large amount of entertainment. And then the sociable weavers. You can watch sociable weavers for hours. Just how busy they're out, foraging back, nest maintenance, bit of socializing from the sociable weavers. Watch out there, Craig. There we go. Craig has signed up for my free bush piercing that I offer on safari. That's what is that? Oh, beautiful. It's a southern masked weaver. Lovely. Oh, there's his humble abodes. Craig just getting us lined up there nicely. Lovely southern masked weaver male. And he's been a very, very busy little male at that. I think he's just completed a nest and now he's busy singing to attract a mate. And the makwa dove busy calling on our right-hand side. Beautiful bird, striking colours, that beautiful dark facial markings, and then that beautiful sun yellow body. It's just uttering a short, sharp call. So, more than likely trying to attract the mate. If Craig can just show us over here, you can see he's just finished another nest. You can see the one in that tree is very, very green. So that is fresh material that he has used to create that beautiful, humble abode in the hopes of attracting another lady. And the more skills an individual has, the more ladies he has, the more his genetics will be within the gene pool. Or the stronger his genetics will be within the gene pool. But really, a master of weaving at that, and really beautiful to see. Okay, let us continue further east. We are not too far from this pan, and we did spot another bird that we haven't seen yet, which is a buffy pipit. And hopefully when we get into that area we can find a spot where it is sitting prominently. Because when myself and Craig were trying to view it earlier, it was really in the mix of things. It's a little bit thicker here. And it's just beautiful, just meandering slowly and just absorbing all of this. Bianca, can you tell the gender of an animal through its tracks? Yes, most animals you'd find that the male section, the track would be larger. So for example, lions and leopards, very distinctive to differentiate between that of male and female. Just with the pug marks, males will be much larger in comparison to that of females. With antelope, it's a little bit tricky, or a little bit trickier, but one can then judge the weight. So in this beautiful soil that we have here on Tswalu, a male will be heavier, so his track set would be deeper set into the soil. utilizing the track size would be a bit of a tricky thing. So you could also use the depth at which the track has been pushed into the soil. So yes, you can, with the large majority of them, ID male and female, looking at just the track. The trickier ones definitely come with experience. Once you've been tracking and trailing, it's a beautiful and ancient art. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about that, about how we are so privileged to be able to read the tracks left behind by animals. That's nothing. And understand them. And then also, like you've just asked now, to differentiate between that of male and female. It's a real privilege. And if you ever get stuck into tracking, I promise you now, you will not be looking horizontally, you'll be looking on the floor for the rest of your life. But as we go further east, we're going to send you off to Phinda for a little bit.
Welcome back. We have managed, after just kind of driving around a little bit slowly, we decided to come back or come round to the area where we thought these elephants would come out after we couldn't follow them along that muddy road that we had them walking along earlier. And we have timed it quite well, if I might say so myself, because they've all just crossed over the road where we thought that they would be, and they are about to cross over a second road, which will take them to an area that we definitely won't be able to follow. So we are extremely lucky to have just caught them. You can see this one here looks like he's feeding. There's a few more that look like they're going to cross in front of us just now. But feels pretty good to be to be with them, or kind of just ahead of them instead of chasing after them like we were for about an hour and a half earlier today. Oh, can hear them breaking branches around us. Some grunting. Oh, they're crossing.
Forward.
Definitely hear that quite a lot of the herders to the right, so they've already crossed over the road and are now feeding on the right-hand side. I'm going to go a little bit further forward, see if we can't get a little bit of a closer view. I'm going to keep an eye on this guy that we were viewing here. But they are slowing down. They're definitely not going. There we go. He's got a huge stick coming out of his mouth. Definitely don't seem to be as much on a mission as they were earlier. Wow, we can actually hear the rumbling. It's the most incredible noise. Jessica, memorable elephant sighting. I've had a few, I would say. I think one thing that can get quite scary is being stuck in between a herd, and that's why, or like in amongst a herd. That's why I keep saying I'm going to keep an eye on that one and that one and that one. See, this one's coming from this side. I'm just going to stay here. He looks all right. It's a young male. But, oh wow, sorry, I'm missing the whole crossing. But yeah, like I said, that's why I just keep an eye on all areas, because getting stuck in amongst a herd can be quite a hair-raising thing. If you're on a road with lots of bushes on either side, and you only have backwards or forwards to go, and you between elephants, that can be pretty scary. And that actually happened to me just before I went on leave about 2 weeks ago. And then elephants on foot can also be quite... That was hilarious. There was a little Ngala lying in the grass just on the right there, and that youngster just shook his head like, get out of the way. But also, perfect example, if an elephant does that to you, it can be quite scary, especially if you're on foot or even if you're a little bit too close in the vehicle. That head shake is I'm going to move it forward, is a sign of aggression or just, I'm not comfortable with you, so please move back. Shame, here's the Ngala that got told to move it. She didn't actually move, interestingly enough. Yeah, if you get a head shake like that by an elephant, you know that they are telling you to please move on. And you should listen, because if you don't, the behavior will get progressively more aggressive and you might find yourself in a little bit of trouble. Okay, we'll see if we can follow them a little bit. I don't see why not. But also, just with having said that and all these different behavioral things that elephants do, they will not, or usually won't, just charge you straight out. They want to give you a few warnings first, that head shake being one of them, and basically if you just listen to those warnings, then you should be okay. It's the same with most animals, actually, same with lions or leopards. Often they'll give you like a low rumble or some kind of sign just to warn you that you're getting a bit close and they don't feel comfortable with you around. If you adhere to that, then there probably won't be any further signs. But if you don't listen to that, then there will be further signs and they'll be a lot more aggressive. Okay, I think we'll send you over to Tswalu. We're going to carry on following these elephants, but like I said, they are heading into a thick area. As soon as they cross off the road, we won't be able to follow them anymore. But for now, we'll send you to Tswalu.
Well, I like the respect that Kim has for the environment. I heard her saying there that if they go off the road, unfortunately, we cannot follow. To preserve and protect is by far one of the most important things that we have to do, not just as naturalists, but everybody. Preserve and protect everything we have. Beautiful little sighting we have here. We came around the corner and this bird shot out of one shepherd's tree. And if you look very carefully at the bottom left-hand corner, you can see partial parts of the trunk coming up. And a very whitewashed appearance. This is also a shepherd's tree or boskia. And in the top right-hand corner of it, you can see the bird just sitting very well camouflaged. It is an immature Gabar goshawk, which is sitting there. And he's being very accommodating. Wow. You can see from the heavy streaking that the bird has on its neck and breast, and then as well as its size. Its eye color, very distinctive pale eye, also a very distinctive ID tool when it comes to juvenile raptors, because juvenile raptors can be very tricky at times, and if you don't do it, often, IDing a different species in the juvenile department or immature department can become very, very tricky. But that pale eye, you can see almost like a whitish line running above it, and then that streaky throat and breast, along with those pale orange legs. Definitely a Gabar goshawk. And really a remarkable thing about this bird, the population in South Africa, you would find that about 25% of the population actually is a morph, which is quite remarkable. Get them in a dark morph, so they become jet black. Besides the normal colors of that slaty grey with a bit of barring. It's really special to see this jet black Gabar goshawk zooming and darting through from tree to tree. Tokozani, how's it? Are these birds territorial? I would say it's a raptor. It's a very aggressive nature, and it's quite a hunt. So I would say that definitely these birds are territorial. If you are partaking in resources, you want to make sure that your resources aren't being depleted. And another bird in the area means that you'll be losing food somewhere along the line. So if there's an intruder tapping into my food source, I want to make sure I drive him out. So a pair would definitely hold a small territory, and jointly they would defend this area from other individuals, because you want the food for yourself. And the stronger you are with your partner, the better location you have. And the better your location is, the more food you're going to have available. And if you have other intruders coming in and utilizing that food, that's not going to be a very good thing. If you'd want to chase them out. And I've seen one or two where they do a bit of aerial combat, chasing each other. They can be quite vicious. They like these woodland, semi-woody areas. It's perfect for this bird. Its short wings, broad and short wings, make it a brilliant and very agile flying bird. So catching birds on the wing is what this individual does. But hunting from a perch, sitting like this, concealed, and then seeing a potential prey item come past, that's where that bird will take flight. And I've read accounts that they've given fairly long chases in order to pursue and obviously get hold of the prey item. If I can remember correctly, it was something like 4 kilometers or 4.5 kilometers, I want to say. Something in the back of my hard drive has just come up and said 4 kilometers, where a bird had given chase on another bird for about 4 kilometers, which is remarkable. That's a lot of energy expended for a meal. Wonderful. Coming on to the cooler parts of the afternoon. And it is definitely a favourable time for animals. So we'll head to that pan and see what's there.
Very good. Well, it is a wonderfully cool day here today, Kyle. It's the sun is gone a long time ago. I've had a jacket on for a little while, but it's still a little bit muggy, actually. Feeling a little bit warm under this. I was very bravely climbing a tree for the last little while, and it's probably a good thing that we weren't filming, because I ended up falling out at the bottom. It's all right. Only minor scrapes and injuries, but we were successful. We were successful in what we were looking for, and now I have to find the branch of the tree. That I got it, yes. Now you can see the milky substance there. This is from the low-felt milk berry, Manilcara mochisia. And yes, you often will associate milky substances with something that's toxic or poisonous. When these guys are not ripe, they're quite bitter, but when they're yellow like this, they are delicious. You can see some of them are squashed because they're in my pocket and fell on the side that I had them in. But I'm going to eat one. Be aware of milky substances, though, in general in nature. Many foods that have milk in them are not ideal when it comes to fruit, but these, delicious. And there is the seed pod. Put it over there. Quite a big seed pod, but when you compare it to the fruit, it's not actually that big. So very juicy and tastes very vanilla milkshake-ish. Is that even a word? Okay, so the low-felt milkberry with the little clustered leaves there. You can see how they're clustered. We spoke about them before. Little clustered leaves. Very easy to remember. And I've only ever seen this tree in fruit once before. So it's very nice to be able to find them in fruit. I saw a giraffe feeding on them the other day, and then we saw a leopard and rushed off to see the leopard, and they never got back to the tree. But I climbed it, and the fruits were very far out of reach, so there might not be any more climbing happening in the days going forward.
Still no luck for us when it comes to our leopards, but this is that lone impala that's hanging around and looking so nervous in this area. I mean, it is windy, it is overcast, it's not great conditions if you're a prey animal on your own, especially when you're used to being in a herd. But this looks like a pretty stressed impala besides all of that. It is running up and down this area. Normally that kind of behavior, single impala, female, running up and down, is a female that's trying to find its little one. That's normally what we see from them. It isn't calling though, so sometimes if they're calling, then you know it's quite recent that it's missing its little one. It could have just been separated, I suppose, by these leopards walking through here, but that I doubt that. I suspect there's something more sinister afoot. I also found some scat on the road that has a slight little crust on it, but there's parts of it that are still so wet that if you touch it with a stick, it's all sticky and kind of just pulls up with the stick. So that means that this has to be when the sun disappeared. So that's anywhere from about 11:30 this morning until now. It's fresh, in other words, is what I'm really trying to get at. Interesting though, whichever leopard defecated, that leopard, and I suspect that it was the cub that defecated, because the bone fragments that I found in it were tiny little bones, almost looked like for a small little mouse or something like that, of that nature. It wasn't big at all, and that obviously it wolfed it down. It wasn't a very big, heavily black scat, so it's not like it was packed with blood, which means that it's not eaten a big meal yet. But these tracks going up and down like this always, to me, rings alarm bells when it comes to kills. The frustrating part about this is that I'm pretty sure we could find these cats if we could just basically off-road, or I could walk the tracks to off-road, but there really isn't any point in me walking in and disturbing them on their kill if we can't drive there. It's just not the right thing to do, and so that's why I haven't even gone and looked. But I think they're kind of off to the left of where this impala is, so behind the impala is where I think they are. The tracks are just absolutely everywhere there, so that's what I'm guessing, is that they've gone towards the drainage line just off First Rock. It's a perfect place to spend time, and if you do have a carcass, especially a small impala, to drag it off in that direction would make sense. Now, which male leopard this could be, no idea. We don't know the extent of Mulawati's range, but it's either him or Tingana. Those are really the only two that come to this particular area, and we know that Tingana can often kind of walk this section. The problem with that is Tingana, has he met that cub, and what is his reaction going to be if he hasn't? There's also things to think about when we kind of see tracks patterns like this. But it doesn't look as though any of those cats are running. The big male track is definitely on top of the cub and mother track. So I think he's trying to sniff them out, because his track comes from the north, comes down, and basically is going the opposite direction, and all of a sudden does a roundabout turn. And then you can see he walks up, walks down, and there was actually, I found in one spot, it's so difficult to see with this light, and it wouldn't shown on camera, but you could actually see a slight little nose imprint, boom, on the top of one of Tandi's tracks. So you could see where it put his nose to the ground there and just touched it by mistake on the ground itself as he was sniffing. So there was this little kind of half sort of T shape on top of the track from the little nose area. So sniffing around, just trying to figure out who that is. But I was just sitting with this impala for the simple reason that maybe, just maybe, while I'm sitting here, a bird alarm calls, impala alarm calls, something just gives away where they are. Like I say, I'm pretty sure I know where they are, I just can't get to them. And if they're not in anywhere where I can see them, then there's not really much I can do about it. I was just hoping that maybe with the day finishing and getting cooler, that one of them was going to move, maybe go to First Rock for a drink. It's pretty tricky. No, Ruth, the poor baby won't be terrified, because if it is without its mom, it's dead. It means that the leopards have caught it. This is not a baby impala. This is a female, and pretty adult female. Probably last year's female, or maybe the year before. So its baby would
be what's missing, not its mom. So yes, if the baby is not here, then it's probably, I'm afraid, gone already. This Impala is already a fully grown female. Just you don't have any reference of size, I suppose, in the picture, so it could potentially appear to be smaller than it actually is. Shame. You see, look, you can see she's very, very aware. Jerome, I don't know. Tundi and Co are not that forgiving on lone animals. I mean, if she comes back out and they don't have a big meal, it's very possible she could get hold of this one. What could also chase this Impala is hyenas tonight. If they're attracted into this area, maybe they sniff a kill out. They'll come in and they spot a little... There we go. Franklin's our alarm calling right where that Impala is looking now. I wonder if it's not, that's where they are. So close but so far. All right, well, and I'm going to just try and sit here for a little bit longer, maybe do one more loop in the hope that one of them is coming out to have a drink. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tswalu.
Oh, it's great hearing the alarm call of a leopard, or alarm call because of a leopard. Beautiful little afternoon portrait of a family of meerkats. There's 6 individuals in this little group. So this is the same individual that we saw earlier in the day. And a few more of them have emerged out of the burrow system to do a little sunbathing. It's be quite chilly underground. Catching this last a little bit of light, afternoon light, is very important to warm up the body before nightfall. And you can see the orientation is directly towards the setting sun. All quite close together as well. Here we're looking at different direction. You can hear a pale chanting goshawk in the distance. That will obviously be a very, very big threat for these little guys. So even by sound, they'd be able to recognize and hear that bird and know that that is a potential threat. Max, what do meerkats feed on? Meerkats feed on small little animals. They are carnivores. So they feed on various types of insects, from grasshoppers to beetles, you name it, little lizards if they can catch them every now and then. But the majority of the diet, it does consist of insects. And they would be obviously finding that food source during the daylight hours. Be off foraging for the majority of the day and then returning to a burrow system like this over here with full bellies. And this is where they would find or reside for this evening. Such a beautiful spot to be viewing meerkats. Yeah, an adult when it's foraging can make up to 30 kills. 30 kills per hour. That is a lot of consumption of insects. You think about a group of meerkats. When you think about the meerkats or the whole meerkat population through southern Africa, they're consuming a lot of insects. It's lovely to be seeing meerkats in a different light. And we all used to seeing them very early mornings. And just seeing a group like this with the afternoon sunlight is a treat. Bianca, cutest little family. They are very adorable. And very entertaining to watch. They really are. So Craig's giving us a brilliant view on how small those animals really are in this vast landscape. And think about how they survive with each other. That's how they do it. It's best when you got a buddy. But yeah, they are very minute in this very, very open area. Being open like this, they really do have a big advantage of scanning a very, very, very far distance in search of predators. So a predator's not going to just sneak up on them from that position. A predatory bird coming from the right angle, utilizing the sun, or coming from behind them, if they weren't paying too much attention, would be a very big threat. But a terrestrial predator would not be easily sneaking up on them. There's a dove in this tree here. It's preening. So I want to take you guys' focus from those beautiful meerkats. It's not often we just get a view of dove. There's a dove sitting very close here to us. Might be its spot for this evening. A ring-necked dove, beautiful. And the pan that's just off to our right-hand side here, these birds would visit that pan for a little drink, but then also to do a little bit of bathing before settling down at a resting spot. There's a namakwa on the left there. So from one dove species, the ring-necked dove that's in view now, Craig's going to show us a beautiful male namakwa dove. And he's sitting very, very nicely. Look at that. Very dark facial mask and that big black bib extending to the top part of the breast. Oh, sorry, midway of the breast. And you can see that coloration of the beak. Definitely a male. Oh, and goodbye. Oh, it's in the mouth. Wow, a new bird for you folks. I don't know how we haven't seen a namakwa dove. Are we sure? It's sitting even better for us. Look at this. So it gives a very, very beautiful call, and by far one of the most prominent doves on Tswalu. We consider these western set pans, and I mean, if I said maybe 100 or 200 an hour, maybe I'd be under counting it, but we can have a lot of activity with these doves moving in and out these western set pans. And that's its call. So the female will lack that black face and then black bib. She's just uniform slaty grey. Lovely. He's calling nicely. Great. Giving us a little song there. Alrighty. So I think we should leave this little namakwa dove and let's maybe turn into the pan here and see what we have. We did, when we came in here, see a little group of springbok, but they have taken off further east and they have left us. So we're going to meander slowly into this area so we don't disturb anything. We're going to see what we can find.
Our first WildEarth Explorers competition has closed. And we have a winner. Congratulations to Chantal Sleep from Benoni in South Africa.
I felt totally overwhelmed for winning this prize. I will be taking my son with me, and I can't wait to share this experience with him.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent andBeyond Ngala tented safari camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank WildEarth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Tswalu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply. If you love to watch WildEarth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
Hi, I'm Nikki, your guide here at andBeyond in Ngala. So my favorite animal in the African bush definitely has to be the zebra. Because like people, with our fingerprints, every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. And, of course, a group of zebras together is called the dazzle. How unique is that? Come and join me or one of my colleagues here in Ngala for a sunrise and sunset safari on WildEarth.
In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with WildEarth.
Welcome to Buffelshoek Wetland System. It's our first, bless you Theo, first time being up here at Buffelshoek watching hole in after the rains, and it is full. I think our hippo family has moved on because it's not shallow enough for them. Or maybe they've already gone out for a spot of grazing. Okay, well, splendid. I have two more plants I wanted to show you today, if you're all still in the mood for some plants. And it's two that are often confused with each other. Very often confused with each other. Now, first things first. Compound or simple leaves. Now, very easy. They are both the same style. And I'll show you. Let's start with this one on this side. If you look over here at the base, inside there you can see that little axillary bud, which means that this entire thing here that I'm ripping off is the leaf. So that is the leaf there. And it ends in a terminal leaf, so this is one pair at the end, called imparipinnate, whereas this one over here is also the same. So the major difference between these two, both of them, the leaf is very, very much the same, but this one occurs in very nice clusters at the end. Can you see little clusters? Which is quite characteristic. But I'm going to take a leaf off there and compare the two. Very, very easy when I put them down here. I'm sorry about the movement. Put them down here like this. What's very easy to see is, can you see that this one's got a little PTL stalk? So it's where the leaf attaches. Whereas the other one, look over here, before we send you away. Over there is no PTL stalk. Okay, so no PTL stalk, false Marula. PTL stalk, Marula. Okay, we're going to send you over to Tswalu.
Well, there is nobody or nothing at that pan. A lot of namuk with us. And we're going to roll the dice. We're going to leave this pan behind us, and we are going to go to another one. That's about 2 kilometers that away. That's about east, slightly northeast. And we are going to go see if there is anybody there. It's very quiet. It's very quiet on this side of the world. But that's okay. That's exactly how things are meant to be. You should never ever force it, and you should never be upset about it. It's not on demand. It's not Netflix. Things out here happen on their own accord, on their own time. And Mother Nature will reveal what and when she needs. Also for you at the right time. I hope everybody's been having a fantastic drive with us. Once again, it's lovely to have everybody on board. Sinak, how are you doing? I would have to say, what is the most interesting or unique bird call for me? I would have to say when birds make sound via mechanical sound. I wonder how am I going to explain this without making my name totally something. Let me try here quickly something. Let's see if we can make this happen. So if you look at a bird that makes a very unique call, that'll be a bird called an African snipe. And by far it is the one bird that just fascinates me on how it makes its call. And if I just bring it up quickly, I'm going to play this call for you folks, and I want you folks just to listen very carefully to this call. I don't know if that's a UFO or if that's a bird. Really remarkable way of making a sound. So that's the sound made by an African snipe. Remarkable, where this bird is actually flying and swooping down an angle, and it's got stiffened or very, very strong tail feathers. And what happens is that this bird is flying down at an angle, and the feathers are pushed out, and the wind rushing past the feathers is making a vibration and making that very unique sound. Mechanical forms of sound, I think, fascinate me so much. I mean, it's wind rushing past and over the feather. And if you listen to other bird calls like African broadbill, also a very unique form of sound, another Gabar goshawk. Oh, sorry, it's a dove. I'm still learning my birds, guys. Also a very unique form of sound. But birds can make some fairly unique vocalizations as well, don't get me wrong. But for me, it'd have to be that African snipe that just kind of mind boggles me. It sounds like a UFO coming down to jump on board on this vehicle to take a little safari. Shrike. Okay, you can see you've got quite a long and straight road here. We don't like corners here in the Kalahari. We like straight. We like getting from point A to point B fairly quickly. And you can see just the length of this road that we do cover vast distances out here. And that's why I've decided to leave that pan behind us, and we are going to another one to see what we can see. But just the colors and the smell at the moment are just incredible. And that light, that afternoon golden light is just illuminating everything so nicely for us. Okay, giving us a beautiful view there from the side. You can see how tall this grass is out here as well. It is incredible. It's a very unique little marker on the tree. Let's take a look. Who could have done that? Very unique little sign left behind here by somebody.
You can see that left-hand little branch is not looking great. Looks like a branch has been broken off. It looks like the growth point. You can see the very dark section on the left-hand side. And that's more than likely where another branch was, and it's been broken off. Could have been bobby junchies, coming in here and breaking a branch or two. But it's always very important to... Oh, beautiful sound for us. On top of the tree, Craig, right on top. Right on top. Beautiful call here as well, from a very beautiful bird. Oh, there it flies. Oh, it's giving a very distinctive noise. That was a crimson-breasted shrike. Very beautiful bird in this area. The color scheme of that bird being that crimson color and then having that very, very dark dorsal section is so beautiful in terms of contrast. But yeah, very important to stop and look at these things over here, because that could have been a scraping from a dominant bull, kudu or something, or maybe even a wildebeest. Territorial markings like that are very, very prominent by dominant individuals. And then you could maybe lead up on a fight, by stopping and looking, that we could potentially hear an individual fighting. You could hear the vocalization. So always very important to stop and really appreciate, but understand what's going on. And off we go. There it flies. The crimson-breasted shrike can give a few funny calls. It gives a call in this area. It sounds like a spring going off. It almost sounds mechanical. It doesn't sound like it's made by a bird. So we got about a 10-15 minute drive to the other pan. So while we're en route, we're going to send you over to Tristan, and we'll see you guys later.
Well, unfortunately, we've decided that's that for our leopard search. There's nowhere else I could go. We checked everywhere we could, and well, they're just not visible on the road. So tomorrow is another day. I will go straight back there tomorrow, and hopefully they'll have decided that they're not going to be so full of nonsense, and they're going to decide to actually come and stand on the roads and welcome us with open arms. Wouldn't it be nice if we could get a Thandi and Cub and Mulawati sighting, all three together? That would be cool, to see how that kind of plays out. I would enjoy that sighting. Anyway, here's what it is. It happens. We're just going to have to try again tomorrow. I mean, if they're there and they've got a kill, then hopefully during the course of tonight it gets hoisted and we'll be able to pick it up. But that kind of Impala and just the scat and the tracks, those things normally all point to a carcass. But what we do know is that Thandi doesn't hoist them all that often. There's no tracks for hyenas in the area though, so that doesn't indicate that if they did make a kill, it wasn't last night, because it doesn't show that there's any sort of signs of other predators picking up on things there. We'll go tomorrow morning. I squashed a few of the tracks just in case they walk in the exact same spots again and I can see that they're fresh, to make 100% sure. And then, yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then luck just needs to be on our side. There's only so much we can actually manufacture at the moment, then we just need a little bit of, actually not a little bit, a big slice of luck to roll our way. I'm also very sorry to those that wanted us to get the hyena den today. I will try my very, very best to get there tomorrow. I just, got a bit waylaid with those tracks. I was quite excited by all of those. So I will try to get there in the morning. I promise. Jack, will the leopards ever move off Djuma? So individually, yes. As a species, no. Djuma is a very, very sought after piece of leopard property. And there's a very good reason for it. There's lots of water, so you've got Treehouse, Twin Dams, Gari Dam, Buffels Hook Dam. That's the kind of summer dams, and if they have dry periods, then you've got the pump pans, which are Gallagher Pan, Tumbeta Pan, and Vuyatela Pan. And so that means lots of water, which attracts what? A lot of animals, in the forms of impalas and the likes, which is favorite food of a leopard. So they have water, they have food, and then they've got a dry drainage line for the most part that runs through there. Now, yes, the Mulawati is flowing currently, but it doesn't always flow. In fact, it's very seldom that it flows, which makes it a great spot to have cubs. And so this is a highly sought after area for leopards. Torchwood has the rocks, which is again good for leopards. Buffels Hook has multiple drainage lines too. So this whole section is very good, and that's why we have the density of leopards that we do. And so as individuals, yes, you're going to find Tundi might move across, you might find Tlalamba moves, but as a species, no, there will always be a leopard somewhere around here, bar a whole nuclear fallout of the entire world, and then in which case none of us will be here. Probably the animals might even survive, some of them, who knows. But you know, it's really, as long as this is a protected area and as long as it carries on being the way that it is right now, leopards will always be a feature of this landscape. They're not going to just move off Djuma for any reason. You might find a day where we don't have a leopard on the property, but I am of the opinion, and I'm convinced by this, that there isn't a day that goes by that there isn't a single leopard on Djuma at one time. And when we're talking Djuma, I'm just talking Djuma. I'm not talking Torchwood, Buffelshoek, Chitwa, Simambili. I'm talking about Djuma on its own. I have yet to really have a day on Djuma where there hasn't been some sign. So whether it is a footprint or an alarm call or something, we might not be able to find it. That's different. So we definitely don't have a leopard every drive on Djuma. But there is always the opportunity, and there is always a leopard lurking. It's just a matter of luck, timing, and a bit of skill, and hopefully you get lucky and you get to spend time. Now, earlier we were talking about frogs, and you guys were asking me about an increase in frogs. You can hear them now. Just going to turn my light off so we're not inundated with insects. So you predominantly have two species that are calling now. The metallic ticking is the painted reeds, and the popping is that bubbling casino. I haven't heard any others yet. No other froggies that are calling. Still deafening though. What I might do is there's a little pan coming up in front, and that's really good for frogs. So maybe let's see if we can quickly just scoot up there and get some different ones. It's not far at all. It's about a 2-minute drive, not even, to get there. So I'm going to quickly head that way and see if there's not some other species that are calling from that side. I'm going to drive a little bit without my lights on because there's so many insects around that water that we've picked up a few, and I want them to disappear before I turn them on again. And as much as it looks dark on the camera, our eyesight I can actually see fairly well. Even into the bush you can still see a lot of the detail that's around, so if anything's walking we'll be able to pick it up. No, not only. They need water fairly close by, or humid environments is probably a better word for it. But I had a foamless tree frog that lived in my office at Simamili when I worked there that survived the entire winter, and it was during the drought in 2016. Very little water anywhere near there. In fact, there was none. The only water probably was a few drips from the walk-in fridge, but that was nowhere near there. And it was able to survive by going into a state of not hibernation, but estivation, where it basically is shutting down. It's going to sit still in one spot. It's going to be, a lot of the time, a white coloration, which will allow it to reflect light and not absorb heat. And it was able to this road. You're able to kind of survive off of that, and you probably find because of the aircon that was running in that office in the summer months, there might have been a little bit of dripping somewhere which caused a humid environment and therefore survives. So they don't always have to be near water. Brownback tree frogs, I've seen them quite far from water. Toads are far less dependent than frogs, but as tadpoles they typically, I'm afraid, need water. So the pan that we're talking about is just in front. Sorry, little bronze-winged courser, out the way. I just want to get to this one. It should be pretty good for some frogs tonight. I'll just turn off here. We'll just coast our way down. Nicer than hearing the engine. You can actually hear the frogs already. Bobby, say, listen to that symphony, you love it? I do love frogs as well, and the symphony of them is great. So I'm actually going to turn off and just let you, well, not turn off, but I'm going to turn my mouth off. You'll be very excited about and let you listen. And here there's two different calls that are in this lot from what we heard earlier. The one is the banded rubber, which is calling. And then there's one that's making a almost sort of squeaking sound. And there's actually two different ones that are making a sort of, it's almost more an animal sound than it is a frog sound. And the one is called a brownback tree frog. And they sound a little bit like a lion cub calling. That's how I always remember it. It has a very interesting call. I'll play it for you now. And then the other one was a very, very brief call of a common river frog that was also calling brownback tree frog. So this is the brownback tree frog. I'll play it for you guys on my cap. So that sound is a kind of little, it's not exactly like a lion cub, it always just reminds me of it when I drive through the bush. And then the other one that was making a slight sound that didn't finish the call is the common river frog. Sounds like this. That one is also calling, and then the banded rubber, which is the ones, I mean, a lot of you will know the banded rubber is this guy over here. So there we go. So there's 5 different species of frog that's calling here that we can hear, which is pretty amazing. Okay, we're going to carry on. In the meantime, off we go to Steve, see what he's up to and whether he's going to be doing a bit of frogging this evening.
Well, sorry about that, everybody. I think we might have lost it. Just had a rock python in the road. And he's gone. How's that for, how many snakes do you think there are in the bush when 2.5 meter rock python was right here and now is gone? Very cool. Sorry we didn't manage to capture him. He was crossing the road for a long time. Well, not for a long time, but he was in the road. And then he shied out and went back into the thickets. I can't see him. They can move very quickly when they want to. They're normally quite sluggish. And slow. But I'm not going to go in there and pull him out. I hope that's all right with all of you, because it would be unethical. And I don't think he'd like it very much, and I wouldn't like it very much. Theo was, what did you say, Theo? I wouldn't want to walk into that on foot. So that's only a little guy. It was only about a 2 meter, maybe 2.5 meter. They get bigger, they get much bigger. Oh, I had my spotlight out before. Python, African rock python. Tingana likes to catch them. So they would be after birds, eggs, and frogs, birds themselves, and many, many different things. It's my first python, a live python that I've seen in this area. Seen a couple dead ones. Very, very sensitive heat sensors in the front of their nose. There's evidence of them being in caves where there's no light at all and catching bats in the complete darkness just because of the heat sensoring on the tip of the nose. I'd love, imagine having that ability. Heat sensor on the tip of your nose. I don't know what I would do with it. Make sure your food's warmed up. Okay, so as you can clearly see, we've got the spotlight about and searching for all sorts of things. Dylan, there's a few snakes. What's your version of lots? There's but species that are of human concern. We've got the black mamba, the snouted cobra, the Mozambican spitting cobra, the puff adder. The python is of concern just because of its ability to bite, but it's not venomous in any way. We've got the rhombic egg eater, we've got the rhombic night adder, we've got so many snakes. There's the striped-bellied sand snake, got the boomslang, that was the number 6 of medical importance, the boomslang. Got the asp or the stiletto snake. There's actually quite a lot of species. I'm thinking probably in the region of about 30 odd. Not sure the exact number. A whole lot of Impala eyes over there, looking questioningly over in this distance. But invariably, if you leave snakes alone, they will leave you alone. Every now and again, puff adders or Mozambican spitting cobras, for the most part, will end up in your house or in our rooms. That happens. A friend of mine was bitten on his back in his bed years ago. Not ideal. Now, those impalas are just hiding over there in the thicket. It's very windy, everybody. We knew finding animals today was not going to work. Hence why we've been trying to focus on some of the smaller things. Because when it's windy like this, you can be lucky. But invariably, you're going to find many of your animals just trying to shelter, hide, or you find some elephants. Oh, we got a scrub hare who's not trying to hide at all. But poor fellow is like a deer in the headlights. And he's gone. There he is, just in front. There goes the scrub hare up on the left. And they come out at night for feeding, and as you can see, very easily lost in the long grass. He doesn't seem to be too concerned by the weather. The wind does make most animals quite jumpy. Scott Dyson, who used to work here, had a most remarkable sighting of a black mamba killing a scrub hare and then trying to swallow it, but the scrub hare being just a little bit too big, and then a slender mongoose fighting with the black mamba, and the black mamba leaving, coming back, and then the slender mongoose coming back and then chasing the mamba off, and then eventually the slender mongoose dragging the dead scrub hare to wherever it went to. It was the most remarkable footage. I think they did a few sort of short broadcasts, so very worthwhile going back and having a look. I don't know what it would be called, black mamba attacks scrub hare or something in that sort of line, black mamba and slender mongoose scrub hare, somewhere along that line. The scrub hare was just too big for the mamba, just couldn't swallow it, because snakes don't have teeth for chewing, everybody. The python has got these sort of very, very sharp backwards facing teeth that it will bite and it will latch on, sort of like barbed wire, and then pull. And then while it bites, it then wraps itself around its prey animal, suffocating it. So it doesn't require venom because it uses brute force. It's quite a powerful snake. Whereas many of the other snakes, especially the larger ones, they rely on their venom to bite an animal and allow that animal to die pretty quickly. And the venom works as a twofold. It immobilizes the animal, and then it also digests them from the inside, depending on the type of venom used. And so having no teeth to chew, the snake will then swallow the food whole, where most remarkable body enzymes or stomach enzymes are designed then to digest the prey animal entirely. Bones, fur, teeth, everything. Junior, there's a couple of differences, but the major differences really are the way that they're born. Hares are born with their eyes open and with fur. They also born just sort of under a bush somewhere, and they're able to follow mum around quite early on. So they're called what we call precocial, like our ground nesting birds, whereas rabbits are born blind, hairless, and in burrows in the ground, and they require enormous amounts of parental care. Precocial versus altricial. So rabbits are altricial, hares are precocial. There's slight differences in the leg length and the ear length, but I don't really know the differences there. But that is the major differences, the birthing strategy. So scrub hares are born just under a little bit of scrub, and they don't live in burrows at all. Whereas rabbits have to have burrows to survive. It's part of their habitat. They are both grazers. He's very busy eating there. We see him with our light. He thinks he's invisible. Doesn't know he's being watched. You ever get that feeling? I'm being watched. Caitlin, it really depends on the species. Some snakes are very active when it's very hot. They are cold-blooded after all. And then some snakes are active at night. But temperatures definitely plays a part in their mobility. Because when it's very, very cold, snakes are very inactive, very slow-moving. But a puff adder is very slow-moving anyway, so They can be active at any time, moving around, very camouflaged. Their home is where they're sitting at the time. But you find after very warm days, you often find lots of snake activity around when snakes are very active, searching for food. But then there are a number of snakes that are primarily nocturnal, and you see that in their eye design. The boomslang, for example, are generally very nocturnal. They've got very, very large eyes that enable them to see better. As we discussed before, the python, they are able to find their food through heat receptors in the nose. There we go, come out and play, buddy. What are you eating? A little bit of grass? Bit of grass seeds. Got to keep your meal varied. A little bit of fur. Keep it up. They are very cool animals, actually. I've come across a few of them having a little boxing match. Males will sit on their back legs and they'll punch each other. Thinks he's not being watched. I'm not aware of any insects that prey on small animals, Katie, but there's lots of insects that clean them up. Lots of insects that will feed on the dead animal. So fly larvae, for example. Flies lay their eggs on dead animals, and the larvae or maggots will eat the meat. Also get carrion beetles. That also feed on scat as well as dead animals. And I'm sure there's a few others that I can't think of right now. But there's parasites all over the world, I suppose. Many of them are very, very small. And insects in the form of mosquitoes. They prey or parasitize on prey animals. They suck their blood. Many flies will bite and suck blood as well, but they don't necessarily kill. They might, in the long run, lead to some form of disease. And ticks as well, all parasites. But generally, parasites are very small, and they can live off of the host. They don't necessarily kill it, whereas a predator is normally larger than the prey animal. And there's not many insects I know that are larger than the prey animal or mammal. That would be pretty scary, wouldn't it? Carnivorous insects larger than scrub hares running around. Ooh. Okay, well, we're going to carry on down the road and see if we can figure out why our impalas are looking a bit skittish. It might just be the wind.
Well, we are just enjoying the beautiful setting sun on the side and the beautiful landscape. You can see, you can see all the birds flying across the picture. A lot of swifts in the air. Just a very beautiful scene. Very quiet and still on this side of the world this afternoon. It's allowed us to tap into other beautiful sources. What a lovely scene. It's getting very, very cool now. So I think it's almost Jersey time. And it's quite chilly, to be totally honest, for this time of the year.
We're slowly on our way home. I'm just driving slowly through this section because it's a bit wet and sloshy and generally just not very nice to drive too fast, otherwise you get sprayed with mud. But no luck with anything. I went around back to where I had the other tracks this morning, just in the hope that maybe I'd pick something up on the road, but we didn't get anything. No sign of Kalamba, no sign of both those, well, the young male or the bigger male. So it is what it is. We tried today a lot for our cats, but that's just the way it goes. But we had some nice stuff though, nice birds, froggies, which is good. I like that, you know, I like sometimes that it's a little bit more of a challenge. There is obviously a frustration element in the fact that you want to be able to deliver and see these things, particularly when you get tracks like what we had this afternoon, because that's an intriguing story and makes me want to find out what's happened and who's there. But it's also good to remember that this is a wild area and not everything just happens on a dime. You can't just flick a switch and things happen. We have a bird in the road. Just want to see which, it's just flown away, of course. There's also a toad making a lot of noise and shouting. I've landed, I think it was a thickney that was on top there. You can see there's lots of water still running in these seeps. Let me just go forward a little bit. See if we can pick up this toad. Find it. We get a number of different toad species here. You get eastern olive, raucous, red toad. If you can hear it. Are you next to us? Sounds like it. Maybe we can actually get a view of this little toad. I see an eye in the grass there. Oh, we're never going to see that, I'm afraid. Okay. There's an eye that's glimmering, but it's so deep in that grass. There is no possible way that we're going to get that on camera, not at night. The infrared will never work with that, unfortunately, because infrared reflects off anything in front. So unless you've got a light on, you're not going to have a chance. Anyway, it is that time, though, where we need to say goodbye to all of you. Hopefully, you've had the most wonderful afternoon and enjoyed our bumble through a very wet northeastern and western part of South Africa. It certainly has been a lot of rain of late, and it's making for some interesting stuff to talk about and see. But from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. We hope that we will see you tomorrow bright and early for our sunrise safari.